Today, we're going to be talking about some of the most cinematic and visually impressive FNAF fan games the community has ever seen. From incredible cutscenes to immersive storytelling and atmosphere that feels straight out of a movie, these games go way beyond what most people expect from fan projects. Some of these are honestly on the level of official releases, so let's get into them. When you think of the typical Five Nights at Freddy's game formula, what usually comes to mind? Well, probably being stuck in one spot, unable to move, having characters bombard your doors, and only having a small amount of tools you can use to defend yourself. Occasionally, we'll find a fan game that introduces an interesting new mechanic. And of course, every now and then we find a free roam FNAF game that really, most of the time, feels like its own game that just uses FNAF characters. The game we'll be talking about today takes the FNAF formula and completely flips it on its head, giving you the opportunity to decide how long the nights are, and even introducing useful upgrades along the way. The game we'll be talking about today is Tealerland, a game I've been asked to talk about quite a few times, and a game I actually intended on covering sooner, but due to a bunch of other interesting fan games I've wanted to talk about, I've just been pushing this video off. But today, here we are to talk about it, so strap in and join me as we dive into the depraved world of Tealerland. Tealerland begins by putting us in the shoes of David Artell. Years back, us and our brother opened an amusement park called Tealerland. After a few years of running, the park shut down and Teal and David went their own separate ways. Years after the shutdown, we get an unexpected call from Teal. All he tells us is to find him at the park. So, not knowing what's going on, we make our way back to Tealerland, and this is where the fun can truly begin. Entering the park, we walk around and explore a little, finding some lore pages and oh shit! The fuck was that? In typical horror media fashion, as the main character, I'm going to choose to completely ignore what I just saw and chalk it up to myself seeing things. Continuing to search around the park, we eventually find a pile of garbage bags that look very out of place. Moving them, we find a hidden trapdoor. So what better choice to make than opening it and climbing straight down blindly instead of, oh I don't know, going back home to our family and sleeping like a normal person? Of course, climbing down a ladder in a FNAF game isn't as simple as it sounds. Instead, it's made into a minigame very reminiscent of the vent crawling section from Sister Location. Except this time around, there is actually a threat. Because yes, if you didn't know, you literally can't die in the vent section of Sister Location. That entire game is hot ass, and if you'd like to hear me talk about how bad it is in another video, let me know in the comments below. As we climb down the ladder, the first threat of this game is introduced, Tealer. As you climb down the ladder, Tealer can appear on either side. When he does, all you have to do is shine your flashlight at him and he'll go away. However, this game thought it would be really funny to make your flashlight have a startup time. So when you see Tealer, you'll kind of just have to awkwardly stare at him for 3 seconds while you wait for your flashlight to charge up and turn on, which just feels really goofy. So, now I have another question to ask you. How do you know a FNAF game is going to be really complicated before you even start? Well, in cases like Post Shift 2, it's walls of text explaining the mechanics that cause the game to feel so bloated it's not even fun. Well, what else? Let me tell you. There is quite literally nothing scarier than opening a FNAF game and seeing that there's a tutorial night. That's how you know the game you're about to play is going to have the most obtuse and random mechanics you've ever seen in your entire life, and Tealerland is no different. So, now's the time I get to explain to you the several tools at our disposal in a way that is hopefully not mind-numbingly boring. But hold up guys, I want to take a little break here to tell you that this video is sponsored by me. For those of you who didn't know, I have channel memberships. I would never ask anyone to do this as I don't even have any interesting perks attached, but if you really enjoy what I do and would like to support me a little bit extra, that's a great way to do it. Also, if you'd like to actually get something for your money in return, I have a merch store with some designs I commissioned from a fan, the same fan who actually drew these new character PNGs. So if you'd like to have my silly little demon character on your clothes, then that's a great place to go do that. And hey, if enough people end up liking that stuff, I will 100% get some more created in the future, and maybe even commission some more fan artists for some uniqueness in art styles. You can find the link to that in the description of this video. Sorry for the interruption, let's talk about Tealerland. To begin, there are 3 rooms that you can occupy: your office, the hallway, and the supplies room. Each does exactly what you'd probably expect. The office is where you'll do your major important operations. The supplies room is where you do important side objectives throughout the night, and the hallway connects those two rooms. Simple. To start, we need to understand how it is you actually complete a night in Teelerland, because it's not as simple as most FNAF games tend to be. Teelerland uses a task-based completion system rather than a time-based one, except, once again, Teelerland chooses to do something different than most task-based completion systems. The goal of Teelerland is to lure all of the animatronics in the building into a bunch of holding cells, and the way we do that is by taking control of another animatronic that's in the supply room. So the first thing you need to do each night is walk to the supply room and put the animatronic together. Its body parts can be found in the hallway and in the supply room itself, and if you want to hear something awesome, these body parts can apparently teleport at will, because you will commonly walk through the hallway, see nothing, walk into the supply room, see an arm, then walk back into the hallway and find a leg just chilling on the floor. Where did it come from? You tell me. Anyways, once you attach all 3 pieces to the robot, it will leave to roam the building. At this point, you can go back to your office and begin to control it. So, who is the first threat during the first hour of this game? Well, that would be Teeler himself. Really, since you won't often come into direct contact with the characters in this game, and you don't deal with them in a typical FNAF way, the way I'm going to choose to talk about these mechanics is going to be different than most of my videos. In order to lure Teeler, you have to get within a 1 tile's range of him. On your computer, you will see several map tiles, and about once every second you can move the T-Lure robot you built from one tile to another. Throughout that night, Teeler will naturally move around the building, with the goal of making it to your office. By making T-Lure get close to Teeler, a lure meter will start to increase. However, it's not just as simple as standing right next to him. Teeler has the ability to infect the lure, meaning that if you make the lure stand in one spot right next to Teeler for too long, he will infect it. So all you really have to do is make sure you move back and forth while trying to lure him. If Teeler does infect your lure, you'll have to go back to the supply room and hack the firewall of the robot, I think. I don't really know what it is we're doing, I'll be honest. Basically, when the lure is infected, go to the supply room and open up your firewall. Inside, there will be a list of files with one of them infected. You can tell which one is infected because it will have the prefix Zanny_. All you have to do is click on it and boom, you'll be able to control the lure again. Anyways, back to luring. Once Teeler's lure meter is completely full, he will begin to chase your lure. This is when you need to get Teeler to one of the holding cells and lock him inside. Once you've done that, you can safely check off your to-do list and end the hour. But before we can talk about ending the hour, we have a few more important things to talk about. The first of which being your health. No one character alone will be able to end your run in one jump scare. Each character has a certain damage stat, and they will deal that number of damage to you upon jump scaring you. Typically, it's 2 jump scares and it's game over. However, you do have a med kit inside the supply room, so if you ever get injured, just go there and do like the protagonist from Resident Evil and fix your injury with a bandage. So that brings up the question, how do the animatronics actually damage you if you're constantly moving them around? Great question. As I've already said, Teeler's main goal is to get to your office, so you'll commonly find him moving to the bottom of the map, as that is where the hallway to your office is located. If he gets to your hallway, your lure won't be able to reach him, and you'll have to defend yourself to make him enter the main room once again. You do not want to encounter Teeler in your hallway. So, if you suspect he's there, before you walk into the hallway, you can look through the keyhole of the door to your office. If he's in your hallway, you will see his eyes staring back at you. If this is the case, then you will need to quickly stop looking through the keyhole and wait until you hear Teeler leave. If you walk into the hallway or stare at him through the keyhole for too long, then he'll grip your hips and make you bounce on a crazy style. One last thing to note about Teeler is that he is the slowest character to lure, making him by far the most annoying character we'll deal with throughout the game.
With enough effort, you can take control of anything. An ability far more powerful than any other.
Now, before we continue on to the next hour, we need to talk about possibly the coolest thing that this game does. Teelerland has upgrades that you can unlock and equip. Do these make sense from a story standpoint? No, not really. But is it cool nonetheless? Yes. Yes, it is. After each hour, you'll be able to access the perk menu. There are 6 perks for you to choose from. After completing an hour for the first time, you'll get a perk point. and you can get 2 additional perk points for completing the hard mode version of each hour, which, yes, by the way, each hour has a hard mode version for you to complete. There's no real use talking about them since nothing besides the difficulty really changes, but I will mention one additional thing they add. Every time you go to the computer, you'll have to type in a 4-digit code. It's annoying, that's about it. Anyways, back to the perks. You have 2 rank 1 perks and 4 rank 2 perks. Rank 1 perks cost 2 perk points each, and rank 2 perks cost 4 perk points each. So it'll be up to you to decide how you want to distribute your points. However, there is a clear answer as to which perks are the best. Let's start by looking at the rank 1 perks. The first adds a longer lure infection cooldown when you use the firewall, meaning that it will take longer for your lure to be able to be infected again. And the second rank 1 perk makes it easier to spot which text file in your firewall is infected. Considering it is incredibly easy already to tell which one is infected, it's safe to say that picking this perk is pretty useless. Moving on to the rank 2 perks. The first one really makes my ass quake because of how delectable it is, allowing the speed at which you unlock holding cell doors to increase. Opening the doors does take a considerable amount of time, so being able to do it faster is crucial. The second rank 2 perk just increases your max HP to 130. But generally speaking, if you're not a retard while you play the game, you shouldn't be getting damaged that often, so this perk is an easy skip. The third rank 2 perk increases the range at which your lure will attract the animatronics. This is quite literally so goddamn cock-sucking good I can't describe it to you. To not have to get super close to the characters in order to lure them will save you pretty much all chances you will have at getting your lure infected in the first place. And finally, the fourth rank 2 perk makes your lure move around the building faster, which is actually so yummy mashed potatoes in my belly, I couldn't help but buy this faster than your mom buys DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub, and Postmates subscriptions. Now, moving on to Hour 2, which introduces 2 new threats. Let's talk about the one that's a clone of Teeler first, Frill. Frill does pretty much the exact same thing as Teeler. You have to lure him into a holding cell and he can infect your lure. The only way he's different is how he goes about attacking your hallway. When Frill enters your hallway, he will quickly make his way to the door of whichever room you're in and make a noticeable sound cue. When he does, you'll have to look through the keyhole. Once he makes eye contact with you, he'll turn into a little piss baby and move back into the main room. What about the other threat? The one that isn't just an easier version of Teeler? Well, let me introduce you to Willow the Magician. Willow does not give a fuck about your lure, to put it bluntly. She will pile drive right towards your door with no hesitation. However, she is also probably the easiest threat to deal with in this entire game. When Willow enters your hallway, all you have to do is stare her down. Apparently, she's a little autistic and doesn't like eye contact. So all you have to do is make her incredibly uncomfortable in public situations where there are plenty of people around, yet somehow she still manages to feel unsafe because you're staring right at her. However, if you see her in the hallway and exit the hall or take too long to go into the hall, all of a sudden she'll start acting the way she was acting in the DMs and tear your ass to bits.
His machines have far greater potential than what they were made for, sitting in this facility, rotting away. I will put them back together.
Hour 3 introduces another copy and paste character. However, I don't feel like she's that big of an issue. The character in question being Tacy. Tacy is quite literally identical to Frill. She must be lured into a holding cell, can infect your lure, and is even dealt with in the hallway in the exact same way. The only major difference is that she's a lot quieter. She'll still make sound cues, but the chances of you actually hearing them are pretty low. This night does really start to bring into question how hard this game has the possibility of being. Since we obviously can't lure all 3 characters at the same time, it is very likely that at this point of the game we will pretty consistently have someone in our hallway. And with 2 of these characters requiring us to stare at them through a keyhole to deal with, it makes it a hell of a lot more likely that Willow will plow us in the ass. However, I do need to give Teelerland credit where credit is due. Although this game may sound like it can be incredibly unfair, this is honestly one of the most enjoyable FNAF experiences I've ever had. Even at the few frustrating bits I had, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, I still found myself excited to play the next hour, and even found myself really wanting to complete the hard mode versions of the night, both to unlock the points and perks, and because it's genuinely just a super fun gameplay loop. Don't mind if I do. Done. I'm just too fucking good. I'm just too fucking good. Wahoo. It's the exact same excitement I got when playing Juniors for the first time. And Juniors ended up being one of the longest running series on the Dxtr Black channel.
They were meant to be taken apart, modified, tampered with. He should have known. One day it would all be compromised.
Hour 4 introduces a brand new threat to the mix with a new mechanic we haven't seen yet, so strap in. The threat introduced on this night is Mischievous. He does not have to be lured, and like Willow, does not give a shit about it anyways. He will lurk around your halls and wait to attack. When he enters your hall, his music box will begin to play. When you hear his music box, you cannot leave the room you're currently in or he will force himself on you. And this guy is really ugly, and you don't want that. After his music box finishes playing, he will leave a little doll in the room opposite of the one you're already in. You will then have to quickly move into that other room, find the doll, and click on it before the doll decides to do a little dance on it. Friction shit. This of course brings up the obvious issue. We have a character that forces us to switch rooms very quickly, and with several characters attacking our hall that require us to wait and be patient for us to leave, this could very obviously pose a pretty big threat if we were to get some poor attack timings. Once again, really showing how difficult, annoying, and RNG based this game can be.
One more step until the plan is complete. The clock is ticking.
Night 5 introduces nothing new. However, there is a very crucial mechanic I forgot to mention so far. Something that will make your dick hurt, because it certainly made mine hurt. Earlier in this game, a new mechanic was introduced, your generator, which adds a power system to the program you use to control your lure robot. On the map, you will be able to see where the generator is, and you'll also be able to see how much percentage it is at. You obviously don't want that meter to drop down to 0, so how do you fill it? Well, that's pretty simple. At the beginning of each hour, along with the generator, some fuel will spawn somewhere randomly on the map. And when the generator gets low, you'll have to use the lure to go get it and refill the generator. This isn't a hard thing to do by any means, but when you're also trying to juggle everything else that's going on, which trust me, there is a lot of, this will very quickly become something you dread doing.
It is complete. I've fixed them. I have made them perfect. They are all together now. They are now one. It will lure the beast out of his cage.
Well, oh boy, that doesn't sound good. But I mean, what's the worst that could happen? It's not like they're gonna take every character we've seen so far and merge them into one giant terrifying abomination and throw us into a new game mode that we haven't seen so far and have us learn from scratch, right? Oh, word. Shit is snowing. What's going on here? Oh, shit. Something tells me it is most certainly not. Okay, what the hell did I just see? What the fuck is that? Okay, so shit. That's exactly what's happening. Well, what do we have in store for us this time? For some reason, we're in a fucking dank cave. Not really sure why, but we are. And on top of that, there's a computer down in this cave. Again, not really sure why, but we roll with it, I guess. The goal of this finale hour is to destroy what this game calls Deterrent, which, yes, is every single character we've seen so far merged into one giant terrifying abomination. The way we go about destroying this thing is actually pretty cool and does literally feel like a boss fight, unlike most FNAF games that introduce boss fights. To start, let's talk about how Deterrent attacks, as it's pretty simple. There are 2 entrances to the room you're in behind you. Occasionally, you'll be able to hear him approach you from behind, and when he does, all you have to do is whip around and hold your flashlight on him. Which, yes, by the way, does have a battery life, so that's fun. Anyways, now to how we beat him. On the computer, we can see 4 rooms. Each room has a generator in it. When you hold the generator down, it will start to charge up. When it reaches 100%, it will explode. I'm sure you can see where we're going with this. You'll be able to see the deterrent moving around on the map. However, while you're charging a generator, for some reason, you go blind, which serves to make it more difficult to track deterrent but also just literally makes no sense from a gameplay standpoint. But regardless, once you have a generator almost full, you will need to open the door to the generator's room. This will make the deterrent enter the room, but he won't stay in the room for very long, which is why you should already have the generator borderline completely charged by the time you invite him in. Obviously, once he's in, blow that bitch sky high and deal some damage. Then do this 3 more times, and congrats, you've won. Fucking moron, he did it 4 times! Ooh, what the hell? Where am I going? Oh. Yay! Hooray! Hooray! We fucking did it. Oh shit. What's gonna happen here? Oh damn. Oh. Oh, we climbing back out this bitch. Hell yeah, we are. Oh shit. Oh shit, we made it out of this bitch. Uh-oh. Don't tell me that Deterrent's still alive out there. Oh, what the fuck was that? Why is it so loud all of a sudden? Oh, that whole fucking place. Oh shit, he tried to crawl out. He tried to crawl out up after me. Get the fuck away. Who you think you is?
Don't you despise me? Don't you want me gone?
I don't really care.
All the times I tried to fix your wrongdoings,
I'm kind of indifferent.
I have already lost.
Yeah, you did.
So go ahead, David.
What?
Free me from this place.
Oh shit, there was a dude in there. There was a dude in there, bro. Gulp. Brutally slaughtered. Wait, did you tell me I just killed a fucking dude down there? Like it wasn't even a robot? I just killed a dude? Is that what you're saying? Trying to understand here. Oh shit. That is disco, bro. Tealerland. No, that was badass. That was a badass game, bro. I can't even front with you. And just like that, we have completion. David puts an axe through the Deterrent's head, and we have game over. Except one where we look like a badass. But the story of Tealerland is far more interesting than just that. It begins with 2 brothers, long before the lights of Tealerland ever flickered on. Teal Artel and David Artel built their company from nothing, a small business that slowly grew into something bigger, something sharper. And at the peak of that momentum, the brothers opened an amusement park attraction. Something simple, something fun, something that, at the time, didn't feel like it carried any real weight. That attraction was called Tealerland. For a while, it was nothing more than a strange little corner of the Artel brothers' world, a pet project tucked into the side of a much larger dream. Families came and went, the park buzzed with life, and nobody thought of it as anything more than a novelty. But places like this don't stay harmless forever, not when the people running them drift apart, not when one of them starts slipping into ideas that don't belong in an amusement park. Eventually, Teal and David's partnership cracked, the company fractured, and not long after, Tealerland shut down completely. No public explanation, no clean ending, the gates closed, the lights went out, and the attraction was left to rot under its own dust. When the world moved on, the Artel brothers went their separate ways. One of them tried to rebuild his life, the other vanished. Years passed before David Artel heard from his brother again. Out of nowhere, Teal reached out to him, a voice from a past he thought he'd buried, begging David to return to the old amusement park. The message didn't make sense. It didn't sound like the Teal he once knew, but there was fear in it, desperation, something that made David realize he couldn't ignore it. And so, against every instinct telling him to stay away, he went back. When David arrived, Tealerland was worse than abandoned. It felt staged, silent in a way that didn't feel natural. Half-crumbled structures, props left in strange positions, as if the place hadn't simply been forgotten, but deliberately prepared for someone. And as he wandered deeper into the park, trying to find his brother, he stumbled across something that confirmed it, a hidden entrance leading down into the earth, tracing beneath the park itself. David's company, the one he and Teeler built together, had been hiding an entire facility underneath the attraction. A whole underground complex, sealed off from the public long before Teelerland ever closed. A place where their past hadn't just been stored, it had been left alive. Once inside, David realized this wasn't just a forgotten workplace. The lights still worked, the systems still responded, and something else was awake down there with him. Something that didn't want him leaving. As he pushed further into the complex, the truth started to bleed through in fragments. Teal had been down here. Recently, he'd been working with the animatronics again, repairing them, rewiring them, bringing pieces of a dead attraction back to life. But whatever he had been doing, it wasn't for entertainment anymore. The machines began to move on their own, stalking the halls, watching David, responding like something had trained them toward him specifically. None of this was accidental. None of this was the result of some wandering malfunction. Teal had built an entire scenario deep underground, a controlled maze, a sequence of escalating encounters, leading David step by step through the remnants of their old work. Every hour that passed in the facility dragged him closer to the heart of the place, and closer to Teal's intentions, and along the way, David discovered something he had always kept buried. The truth about what happened years ago, about the employee who died, about the body that David hid, and about what that one terrible decision did to Teal's mind. When Teal finally emerged, no longer the person David once knew, but someone warped by grief, guilt, and obsession, David realized the entire journey through Teelerland had been orchestrated. Teal didn't bring David here to save him, he brought him here to force a reckoning between them. Surrounded by the machines that represented everything that went wrong in their lives. The final confrontation wasn't between man and animatronic, it was between brother and brother. One consumed by the past, the other trying desperately to bury it. And in the end, the fight ended the only way it could. David killed Teal. Not out of malice, not out of hatred, but out of a moment where survival became the only option left. When it was over, the facility fell silent. The machines powered down, and as David surfaced from the underground, authorities arrived. They didn't see a man who'd been hunted. They didn't see the twisted maze his brother designed. All they saw was David Artell standing over the body of his own brother. He was arrested, charged, and locked away. And just like that, Teelerland, the amusement park, the secrets beneath it, the broken partnership that created all of it, was left behind again. This time buried under police tape and unanswered questions. A dead attraction built on dead ideas, reclaimed once more by silence. And with that, as far as I'm aware, is all that Teelerland has to offer. Overall, I think this game was a ton of fun to play. It's not often that a FNAF game has me wanting to try and 100% it, but just like Juniors, Teelerland had me wanting to give it a try. One of my favorite genres of games is roguelikes. I also, as I'm sure you could have guessed, really like Five Nights at Freddy's games. I've only built a whole career off of it, so I'm sure you could have figured that out. So I bet you can imagine my pleasant surprise when I was told that there was a Five Nights at Freddy's game that was also a roguelike. The moment I learned of this, I downloaded it as fast as I could and started filming videos because I just knew even before playing it that it was going to be getting a Dexter White video, and here we are now. You guys know what game I'm talking about. You can see the length of this video. I very clearly like this game a lot. So sit back, relax, and join me as we dive into the chaotic world of Too Many Nights. Unlike most FNAF games, Too Many Nights doesn't follow any storyline or the typical FNAF formula. Instead, it acts as an endless minigame that doesn't stop until you fail. Although I'm sure you already knew that considering everyone on Earth has played a roguelike before. At the start of each run, you will get to pick a character, of which there are many. Each character gives you a different set of abilities, with each having a list of pro and cons. You don't start with all of them and will have to gradually unlock them by doing specific tasks. I'll go over them in a bit. After picking a character, you will have to select 3 animatronics to put into the pizzeria. And this is where this game gets brilliant. You get to choose 3 animatronics yourself. The game will never choose them for you, and your initial choices will be random at the start of each run. However, if you really don't like your starting options, you can press R to re-roll your first pick as much as you'd like. As I'm sure you could have guessed, there are several animatronics in Too Many Nights. Each has a unique mechanic, and it will be up to you to plan out which animatronics you bring along, and control how they will be forced to interact with each other. Each animatronic falls into a certain category. You have your door animatronics, your camera animatronics, your mask animatronics, your vent animatronics, your flashlight animatronics, and what I'm going to call your nuisance animatronics. Each of these categories serves its own purpose. And, generally speaking, picking multiple animatronics from the same category will make your gameplay experience easier. Before I really start talking about the characters, I'd like to explain the rest of the experience of a run. To start, after selecting your first 3 animatronics, the run will begin. After completing a night, you will be forced to add 1 new character. Every few nights, you will also be forced to add a penalty. These penalties fall into 2 categories: your general penalties and your character penalties. I'll dive into each of these later as well. After selecting a penalty, you may get the chance to go to the shop and buy some items. Throughout the night, you will gain Faz coins from successfully defending yourself from the animatronics. Once again, I will get into these items later. Keep repeating this process until you eventually die, and boom, that's the gameplay loop of Too Many Nights. Of course, that was a very oversimplified explanation. So now we're going to dive into each of the animatronics, how they work, and to keep it interesting, I'll even throw each character into a tier list so that you can all argue about it in the comments. Hold up, guys. I want to take a little break here to tell you that this video is sponsored by me. For those of you who didn't know, I have channel memberships. I would never ask anyone to do this as I don't even have any interesting perks attached, but if you really enjoy what I do and would like to support me a little bit extra, that's a great way to do it. Also, if you'd like to actually get something for your money in return, I have a merch store with some designs I commissioned from a fan, the same fan who actually drew these new character PNGs. So if you'd like to have my silly little demon character on your clothes, then that's a great place to go do that. And hey, if enough people end up liking that stuff, I will 100% get some more created in the future, and maybe even commission some more fan artists for some uniqueness in art styles. You can find the link to that in the description of this video. Sorry for the interruption. Let's talk about everything that Too Many Nights has to offer. I'm just going to go down the list that appears on the wiki, and be prepared, there are a lot of animatronics. Editor, I'd say I'm sorry for what you're about to have to do, but that would be a lie. Let's go. Freddy is a camera animatronic, aka my personal least favorite type of animatronic. Freddy will start on stage and make his way towards your right door. All you have to do is occasionally stare at him on the cameras to make him go backwards. I'm sure you can guess why I'm not going to like a majority of these camera animatronics. If he ever reaches your door, he will never leave and you'll be forced to keep it closed for the rest of the night or die. Freddy also has 5 penalties that have the option to be chosen when you have to select a penalty. The first is Mad Freddy, which will make you have to look at Freddy longer to make him go backwards. His second penalty is Branched, which gives him a chance to be able to attack your left door as well. And when you're playing this game, you will very quickly fall into a pattern, so having a character be able to switch up on you like this would very obviously throw you off. Stare Down is another Freddy penalty. This one is horrific. It makes Freddy never move backwards. Staring at him will only stall him. However, to compensate, he moves a lot slower, and the camera doesn't have to be up for you to be able to stall him. Invisifreddy is a penalty that I'm sure you could take a solid guess at what it does. That's right, it makes him fucking invisible. Isn't that great? Sure, a sound cue is added to his movements, but fuck that. That just sounds like AIDS. Finally, we have Nuh-uh, a penalty that's just so silly. When Freddy gets to your door, he will prevent the door from ever closing again throughout the rest of the night. Isn't that awesome? No, it isn't? Yeah, I know. Don't choose this one if you can help it. Overall, I'm not a fan of Freddy, but without penalties, he isn't the worst character in this game, so I'm going to give him a C tier. Bonnie is a door character, aka a character I usually like to pick. Bonnie starts on stage and makes his way to your left door. Once there, a sound cue will play and you'll have to close the door and stare at him on the camera until he goes away. Then you can open the door again. Incredibly easy character, however he does have 3 penalties. Cutting is a penalty that makes both Bonnie and Chica take shorter paths to your doors. Because of how easy both of them are to deal with, this penalty isn't too bad. Quiet steps makes Bonnie and Chica not make sound cues while at your door, so yeah, fuck that. No other words need to be said. And finally, flip side is a penalty that will make Bonnie and Chica swap doors immediately after leaving the first door. Easily the second worst penalty these two have. Speaking of Bonnie and Chica, Chica is literally identical to Bonnie, except she attacks the right door instead of the left. And because of this, and how quick I am to pick these two, I'm putting both of them in S tier. Foxy isn't the worst character I've seen, but I did avoid choosing him for a very long time. Foxy will try to leave his stage in the ticket booth. Have your camera on him to stall him. If you don't, he'll charge at your door and bang on it, and make you lose a poop sock full of power. Foxy has 3 penalties and 1 item, which is pretty cool. Insta-Foxy is a penalty that will cause Foxy to instantly start in his last phase at the start of a night. This penalty actually isn't that bad at all, just let him charge right away and it's like the penalty isn't even there anymore. Hen House is a penalty that forces the camera to be up to stall Foxy, which actually is the most cancerous thing I've ever heard of. Haywire is the final penalty, which will make him attack your other door directly after attacking the first door. The only bad part about this is that him banging on your door drains power. And the item that Foxy has is called Good Guy, which makes Foxy not a threat. Looking at him will make him progress, and when he comes to your office, he'll give you a nice little gift like a good boy. Because of how much of a non-issue he is if you balance him properly with the other characters, I'm putting him in B tier. Mangle is a vent animatronic, and she's honestly not that big of a problem. She'll move through the cameras into one of your vents. All you have to do is put your mask on when she's in a vent. She will enter the office for a short period and then leave. I personally hate having to use the mask in this game, so I try my best to avoid characters that force that, but Mangle is probably the easiest of them. Mangle does have 3 penalties. Anger management is a penalty that makes looking at Mangle speed her up. Aggressive Mangle is a penalty that makes Mangle force you to put the mask on for longer. And finally, slithering in is a penalty that causes looking at Mangle in the vents to make her immediately appear in your office. Overall, I hate the mask mechanic. However, Mangle isn't the worst mask character in the game, so I'm giving her a C tier. Caroline, or the marionette, behaves exactly how you'd expect her to. She's a music box. Hooray! Who could have expected that? If the music box winds down, for the rest of the night she will randomly teleport to a camera with a sound cue at random intervals. You will have to find her and stare at her if you don't want her to kill you. She does, however, have a whopping 6 fucking penalties, so that's just amazing. Let's go over all of them quickly. Winding down makes you have to wind the music box for longer. Moving box makes the music box move to a random camera every time you pull the camera down. AIDS. Muted music makes her not make a sound cue when she teleports to a camera. Show Stealer gives you less time to find her while she's away from the music box. Last Stand is really ass, by the way. When it turns 6 a.m., Caroline will teleport to a random camera, and the night will only end once you find her. Dude, there's nothing I can do about that. I can't do anything about that. That's just fucking cooked, bro. I can't do nothing about that. And finally, the worst penalty yet, Caroline Carousel, which will make her be away from the music box the entire night. Genuinely, never pick this penalty. Caroline is definitely annoying, but in all honesty, the music box is pretty forgiving until much later nights. So, because of this, I'm only putting her in D tier. Lizzie is the first non-FNAF canon character we'll be talking about. Fun fact, there are a lot of non-canon characters, but I think that's what adds to this game's charm. Lizzie herself isn't actually the threat. She spawns down bitty buds in your office while your camera is up. Simply hold your flashlight on them and they'll disappear. If there are too many, they'll call Lizzie and she will then kill you. Lizzie has 2 different penalties as well. Speedy Bud will make the bitty buds call Lizzie to your office faster, and Help Wanted will turn the brightly colored bitty buds into dark colored plush Lizzies, which are much harder to see in the very purple office. Lizzie is one of my favorite characters to see in my runs. I love flashlight characters, and I really love office characters. So because of this, I'm giving her S tier. BB is a bitch, but I'm sure you didn't need me to tell you that. And of course, they gave him the worst mechanic of all time. At random times, he will teleport to a random camera with a sound cue.
Hello?
You will have to find which camera he's on and hold the flashlight on him.
Bye-bye.
If that wasn't bad enough, his penalties make him even worse. Mute BB makes him not make a sound cue, which is actually just fucking torment. Don't pick this. I'm moving will make him teleport to a second camera after you find him the first time. Little asshole. And aggressive BB will force you to hold the light on him for longer. Literally, fuck that. I'm sure from the tone in my voice, you can tell I really don't like BB, so because of that, I'm obviously giving him an F tier. Sparky the dog is a camera character that makes me piss blood. He's in the storage room and has 4 phases he will move through before appearing in your office and forcing you to put the mask on for a decently long time. To prevent this, all you have to do is stare at him on the cameras, something I've already made clear I'm not a super huge fan of. He also has 3 penalties if your urine wasn't already red enough. Mad Sparky will force you to look at him on the cameras for longer to push him back. Sparky Speedy will make Sparky move faster, obviously. And aggressive Sparky will make you put the mask on longer if he enters the office. I don't like camera characters. I hate the idea of staring at a character to stop them. D tier. Percy Poodle, yes, from Playtime with Percy, is easily one of the best characters in the game. Being an office flashlight animatronic, all he does is have multiple phases in front of the big office window. He'll start pounding on the glass in his final phase, and you'll then have to hold the flashlight on him to make him go back. He also only has 2 penalties, and both of them really aren't that bad. Aggressive Percy will make him only go back to his last stage the first time you deal with him, but only the first time, so who cares? And Mute Percy makes him make no sound cue when he's pounding on the glass, so just open your eyes and this won't be a problem. Percy is simple. Percy is always an easy pick. S tier. Rowan Rat, on the other hand, is actual fucking torment. At random times, he will appear in any of the 4 corners of the building. When you see him in one, shock him and he'll go away. You will also have the ability to use a radar to detect where he is and where he's going. Oh yeah, and you only have a certain number of shocks, so that's just terrible. He has 4 possible penalties, and all of them are worse than death. Aggressive Rowan gives you less time to shock him. No radar removes the fucking radar, making you constantly have to check all 4 corners yourself. Less shocks obviously gives you less shocks, as the name would suggest. And Invisi-Rowan makes him fucking invisible. Fuck that. Never in a million years am I picking that shitty option. Rowan by himself isn't the worst, but if you get any of his penalties, which will happen eventually, he becomes a nightmare. So I'm putting him in D tier. Maple is almost a good character, but because it's not the only character you'll be up against, it's hard to find it as an attractive pick. At the beginning of each night, it will require you to collect a certain amount of plushies. This number increases with its AI value. You will then have to search around the cameras for these plushies. If you don't find them all before 6 AM, it'll kill you. Amazing mechanic, but again, it's not the only one, so it's really just more of a pain in the ass. It does have 3 penalties. What are those? Well, Early Killer will have it check if you have the plushies at 5 AM rather than 6. Hidden Counter will literally just make it not tell you how many plushies you need to find, which is bullshit. And Restock will add a timer to how fast you need to find the plushies. If you don't find them in time, it'll re-hide all the plushies again, forcing you to find them all in pretty much one go. Again, it's not the worst, but can easily get out of control on later nights when you start to only focus on certain cameras while it has the large plushie counter. So I'm going to give it a C tier. Noelle is another very interesting character that easily has the chance to be forgotten about. When you start the night, a pair of scissors will appear on a random camera. At complete random, Noelle can appear in the office with a sound cue. When it does, you need to find the scissors and click them to make it go away. The scissors will then teleport to another random camera. If you don't click the scissors, it'll force you to put the mask on for a few seconds, which is a long time in this game. Noelle, of course, has 3 penalties. Pull down will make it forcefully pull down the camera when it enters your office, which could honestly be seen as a good thing. Bro, that's not okay. I fucked myself. Having the force pull down from Noelle mixed with the Roby absolutely fucking creamed my ass, dude. Aggressive Noelle is terrible. When it enters your office, if you click any camera aside from the one with the scissors, it will immediately make you put the mask on. And Crazed Teddy will cause it to insta-kill you instead of putting the mask on. A certain item does affect Noelle, however. If you have Chill Pill, you will get 4 additional seconds to put the mask on when it attacks you, which is a lot of time in this game. I'm not a huge fan of Noelle, especially not when it has aggressive on, so because of this, I'm going to put it in C tier. Melatonin is a real bitch of a character. It moves around the cameras, but it's invisible when it does. You'll hear it laughing in one of your ears, and on the 3rd laugh, you'll have to close the door of whichever side it's on until you hear it leave. It has 2 penalties that just serve as the salt in the wound as well. Switch up is easily the worst. Before it moves, you'll have to check the dining room to see a counter for how many laughs it'll have before attacking, now being randomized from 2 to 4. Unplanned only makes its first laugh on the correct side, needing you to remember which side it was originally on. I don't like characters that I can't see. I also find it really hard to keep a timer in your head like you need to do with melatonin, so because of this, I'm putting it in D tier. Lydia is a dog. She'll be in the ticket booth in a fucking cage where she belongs. When you hear her banging on the cage, you'll have to take her out like Old Yeller. Just kidding, you actually just have to hold the cage until that dumb mutt shuts up. The wiki for some reason doesn't have a page for her, and since I avoided her at all costs, I actually never experienced any of her penalties. But if I had to guess, I'd bet one of them makes you hold her cage for longer and another makes her not make noise when she's attacking. But going off of how I know her to be with no penalties, I'm going to put her in C tier. Amber is a character that at first didn't seem too bad, but will very quickly become a run killer. She begins at the entrance. At random times, she'll hold up a playing card with a suit on it. You will then have to click the corresponding suit on the cameras or she'll kill you. The 2 penalties she has might actually be the most evil ones in the entire game. Follow suit will give her the ability to have more than 1 card, and 52 pickup will make that number of cards she can hold literally be any number, which is so retarded I can't even begin to explain why you shouldn't pick this, so just don't. I thought Amber would be great, but I very quickly started to avoid her whenever I could. C tier. CG is annoying, a nuisance character, but not very hard to deal with unless you get unlucky. She will randomly move around the cameras, and if you look at her on the cameras for too long, she'll make you put the mask on for a really, really long time. Her penalties aren't really the worst, however. Aggressive CG will make you put the mask on for longer, and Insta CG will make her enter your office if you look at her, period, even if only for a fraction of a second. However, a monitor is added to your office showing exactly where she is at all times so that you can easily avoid her. There are much worse nuisance characters, and if you don't have any of her penalties, she really isn't a problem. B tier. Dsam, I'm gonna say Sam, is a character I never once chose throughout my playthrough. You may think that makes me a bad reviewer, but I personally think that makes me someone who values not killing myself. Sam will slowly walk back and forth in front of your window with some sound cues. Before he gets to a door, you will have to close it, making him a character you pretty much always have to be watching. He has 2 penalties. Quiet Sam removes his sound cues, and Invisa Sam forces you to only use his sound cues. So pick your poison, dumbass, or even better, just don't pick this character. D tier. Roby is torture. I thought he wouldn't be so bad, and let's just say I wasn't so right. He sits in your office with a timer on his eye. When it reaches 0, you must have your mask on or you will die. He has 2 penalties that are all equally terrible. Mute Roby removes the sound cue he makes right before waking up. Awoken Roby makes him stay awake longer, forcing you to put the mask on longer. I'm dead serious. Don't pick this character. He is horrific. F tier. Alexis is simple, but very easy to forget about, especially on later nights. She will randomly wander around the cameras. If you pull the camera down while on the camera she's at, she'll make you put the mask on for a really long time. So you'll have to switch cameras before pulling them down. She also has 3 penalties. Aggressive Alexis makes her act like CG, where looking at her for too long will also make her attack you. Sneaky Ghost will only make her appear on a camera after you look at it for a second, and Crazed Ghost will insta-kill you instead of making you put the mask on. If you are diligent and aren't an idiot, Alexis is not an issue. But because of how fast you'll be switching through cameras on later nights, I can't give her any higher than a B tier. Onion is another character I never choose. When you pull up the cameras, there's a chance he'll be on them and quickly run left or right. You will have to close the corresponding door. If you close both, he'll drain a bunch of power. Again, for some reason he doesn't have a wiki page, so I don't know what his penalties are, but just knowing what he does, I'm going to put him in C tier. Generic is a very annoying character who I only choose if every other character was ass. He will be in the entrance with an arrow on his face. Once he leaves the entrance, he will go to whichever vent he was pointing to, and you'll have to stare at him in that vent until he goes away. If he gets into your office, you'll have to put the mask on for a very long time. He has 3 penalties that somehow make him even more annoying. Crazed Robot will make him insta-kill you instead of putting the mask on. How About I Do Anyway will make him enter your office regardless of if you looked at him in the vents or not. However, if you did look at him, you'll have to put the mask on for a shorter amount of time. And Glitched will make Generic sometimes switch what vent he's going to, making his arrows completely useless. He's a character that breaks the rules and that breaks my balls. D tier. Kaiden acts in much the same way as Generic. He'll start in the entrance holding a sign with an arrow pointing left or right. Once he leaves with a sound cue, you'll have to close whichever door he was pointing to. He of course has penalties that make him silent and make him go in the opposite direction the sign was pointing to. I've actually picked Kaiden multiple times because if you can avoid his annoying penalties, he's an incredibly easy character to deal with, since you can close both doors when you hear his sound cue for about 2 seconds and not have any additional penalties. A tier. The ink monstrosity is always an immediate pick for me. It starts in your office on the ceiling and slowly creeps down. Hold your flashlight on it to force it back up. The best part is it'll basically teleport all the way back up when you flash the light on him, but that's where his penalties come into play. Stubborn will make you have to hold your light on him, removing the loveliness of this character, but overall still isn't too bad. Head Start will make the ink monstrosity start halfway down in your office and won't be able to go all the way back up to the top. Easily the worst penalty this character has. I love this character, always an immediate choice for me. S tier. Robo Popcakes is a character I initially avoided, but eventually grew to really like picking. At random, he'll spawn on your cameras. Not a specific one, he'll just be an overlay. You will have to match up 2 patterns using the arrows on the overlay, and once you do, he'll disappear. If you don't do it in time, you'll die. This character is always one I liked choosing because of how likely I am to pick characters like Bonnie and Chica, because while I stare at them on the cameras, I can deal with RoboCake, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. He has 2 penalties. X = X minus 2 gives you 2 less seconds to align his face, and pop time will only cause time to progress when you complete a Robo Popcakes attack. Overall, even with max penalties, Robo Popcakes isn't a terrible character. A tier. Entity 12 is pure masochism. They'll start in the storage or maintenance and move down your hall. Watch them on the cameras to make it go back. If they get to your office, they'll make you put the mask on for a long ass time. And get this, the 2 penalties they add doesn't make it any better. Aggressive Entity 12 will make you put the mask on for the rest of the fucking night if it gets into your office. And Run Killer will literally start with it inside of your office and it will never leave. Literally fuck that, fuck this character, F tier. Mura is a character I'd highly recommend not picking if you have other characters that don't want you spamming through cameras, because you will have to be doing that a lot with Mira. Mira will be in the kitchen the entire night and will require you to feed her candy. If you don't feed her enough, you'll die. Candy will randomly spawn throughout the cameras, so you'll have to surf through them to click on them. The penalties she adds are brutal. Savory Tooth makes candy spawn less. Small Plate puts a small cap on the amount of candies you can hold at a time. And Sweet and Sour adds sour candies that will remove a candy from your candy counter if you click on them. So if you've been working your muscle memory this whole time and get this penalty, have fun clicking on every single sour one all the time. I'm not a fan of the camera surfing this character brings, and I'd much rather prefer to just ignore picking her. D tier. The Ringmaster is an interesting character. He'll randomly spawn on your cameras. When you see him, you'll have to flip the camera down and greet him in your office. If you switch cameras, he'll make you put the mask on for a long time. Crazed Magician is a penalty that will make clicking off of his camera just instantly kill you. And Masked Magician will make flipping down the camera always make you put the mask on, but for less time than usual. I don't love picking Ringmaster, but I will usually end up choosing him later in a run. B tier. The entity is someone who gives me AIDS. They will randomly spawn on your cameras in 3 locations, except only one of them is actually real. You'll be able to tell because the fakes will be more transparent. Again, for some reason their wiki isn't available, and I never actually chose any of their penalties, so I'm not totally sure what they are. But I hate find them on the camera characters. You guys know that. D tier. No VA is a character I only dealt with once, acting as probably the most nuisance characters of all the nuisance characters. No VA will randomly move around your cameras. You will have to avoid clicking on the camera it's on, or you'll have to put on the mask. On lower AI levels, the camera it's on will be marked with green, making it very easy to see. As the AI goes up, it'll get harder and harder, eventually becoming fucking invisible. And let me tell you, the penalties make it even worse, as I'm sure you could have guessed. Malware makes clicking on no VA's camera kill you instantly. Spamware makes no VA on multiple cameras at a time, and adware creates an adware window on your cameras. If you don't close it fast enough, it will force you to look at no VA's camera. I actually think this character is really cool, and I think that its penalties are actually super interesting. Aside from malware, that one is AIDS. I still don't love picking this character though, because I hate mask characters. So because of this, I'm giving no VA C tier. Moldy is a character that is a really good pick for early game, but late game will easily become a character you will forget about. Whenever you pull down your camera, there's a chance he'll be in your office. If he is, you'll have to hold your light on him for a while, or you'll have to put the mask on. He has 2 penalties. Aggressive Moldy will make you have to shine your light on him for longer, and Crazed Mold will make pulling up the camera while he's in your room instantly kill you. Again, early game, he's amazing, but you will very quickly forget about him once more characters start to get added. So because of this, I'm giving him B tier. Rita Rabbit is thick, but that's not important. What is how she works. She sits on her fat ass in the arcade slowly attempting to leave. All you have to do is hold the flashlight on her to make her go away. Honestly, not that bad of a character if you pair her with other arcade characters, which there is a decent amount of. She has 2 penalties. Aggressive Rita will make you hold your flashlight on her longer, and Cheeky Rabbit will make her move faster the longer you're not looking at her camera. If you know how to stack her with other characters properly, Rita shouldn't be a problem even if you have her penalties. A tier. Coral is another character that I love seeing as an option to pick. Coral will randomly appear at either of your doors with no sound cue, so you'll have to make sure you're paying attention. Simply close the door he's at and he'll knock, letting you know he's left. He has 2 different penalties. Blinding will make you additionally hold the flashlight on him for a while, and making sure will force you to have your camera down while the door is closed in order for him to leave. I love this character, he's super easy to deal with, S tier. Shrimp is another character that just makes me giddy with joy whenever I see her. Shrimp will occasionally spawn some shrimp food in your office on either side. Whichever side it's on is the side you have to close the door of until the shrimp food disappears. The 2 penalties she adds are easily some of the best to deal with. Big Shrimpin' is a penalty that will cause the shrimp food to have the chance to be really big. If it's really big, you just have to close both doors. And Small Shrimpin' gives the food the chance to have the lid off. If it is, all you have to do is close the door to the opposite side of the food. Shrimp is incredibly easy to deal with, she's satisfying to deal with, and she doesn't use the fucking cameras, which I love. Easy S tier. Worm is the next character we have to talk about, and I avoided this guy like the plague. I was very scared of how it was going to work, so I never actually ended up using it. Worm will start in the dining room and go down your right hall and will stay there until you open the door. When you open the door, it'll crawl through your office. Avoid looking at it either by using the mask or looking at the cameras until it leaves. It also has 2 penalties. Snail makes it move across the office slower, and Digger will make Worm add another bar of power usage while it's at your door. Worm just seems like a character that would completely disrupt the flow of the night, and because of that, I'm putting it in D tier. Kyle and Bob are the 2 next assholes I want to talk about, and these guys are weird, and also really shitty and confusing, and I don't fully understand them. Kyle and Bob are 2 separate animatronics, but they work in tandem. Both of them are vent characters. If Kyle, the yellow one, enters your vent, you have to look at him on the camera or he will enter your office and make you use the mask. If Bob is in your vent, you can't look at him on the cameras or he'll enter your office and make you use the mask. The only problem is, I was never able to figure out how to tell which one entered the vent. At first, I thought maybe they'd alternate and I'd have to remember, but then during one run, Kyle attacked twice in a row. So I'm thinking there has to be something I'm misunderstanding about these two. Of course, they each have 2 penalties. Crazed Sun makes them instantly kill you if they enter your office, and Eclipsed will make one of them invisible while the other is in the vent. I tried to like these guys, but because I'm retarded and can't fully figure them out, they were never for me. D tier. Magi is a pretty interesting character. He will consistently walk back and forth in front of your window. At random, he will make a sound cue letting you know he's about to attack.
Come on, go, go.
When he does, you have to close the door to the side he's on, leading to you needing to keep track and remember which side he's on at all times. This isn't too bad for someone like me who tries to be able to stay in the office as much as possible. Magi has 3 penalties. Reach around will change the way his sound cues work. If he says
Surprise,
or
you won't see this one coming.
you will then need to close the door to the opposite side he's on. This can be confusing for obvious reasons. Do It Myself is a penalty that will make Magi attack the opposite door whenever you deal with his puppet the first time. And Invisimagi makes him fucking invisible, as I'm sure you could have guessed. Magi is not my favorite, but I have no problem picking him later in the run when things are getting tight. B tier. Mallory, on the other hand, is torture. She stays in the ticket booth. At random, she will hold up any amount of fingers on one hand. You will then have to flash her with the flashlight that many times. If you flash her too many times or not enough, she will dash at your door 15 times. This is AIDS. And I can't even lie, 15 times? Why so many? Seems a bit overkill, don't you think? But let's talk about her penalties, which she has 3 of. Ambidextrous will make her be able to show you up to 8 fingers. DoorDash will make her charge 20 fucking times instead of 15, and DoorDash EX makes her charge your doors for the entire night. Easily one of the most bullshit characters when you have her penalties on, but if you can avoid choosing them, she's only really ass because her hand is conveniently behind the fucking camera map. D tier. Roy is one of the only camera animatronics I can actually stomach. He starts in the dining room and slowly makes his way to your office. You can lure him to a previous camera by holding your flashlight on them. Since he's a moth, he's attracted to the light. He only has 1 penalty, Aggressive Roy, which will just make you have to hold the light for longer to get him to move. Overall, very solid character, and not too annoying to handle until his AI value gets really high. A tier. Silly is kinda silly. Fuck, editor, cut that out. Silly is my favorite vent animatronic. He moves around the cameras, who gives a fuck? Eventually, he'll enter one of your vents. When he does, all you have to do is hold the flashlight on him before he enters your office and eats your butt. He also only has 1 penalty, Aggressive Silly, which makes you hold the flashlight on him for longer. Very simple character, he makes sound cues, I like sound cues, S tier. Next up, we've got Bop. She's an interesting, ADHD-riddled little fuck. When you pull down the camera, there's a chance she'll be standing in your window. She will then dash towards either of your doors. Simply close that door before she gets to it. She has 3 penalties. Layered Square will make Bop charge your doors multiple times. Bop Spawn will cause Bop to be able to spawn at your window even if the camera is down, and Force Down will make Bop force your camera down if it is up. A character that requires quick reaction time, and when more characters get added can be easily missed. E tier. Venus is a fucking plant. Oh, you want to know what they do? Sure, that's fair enough. Venus will sit in the kitchen the entire night like your mom in the middle of the night looking for more food, even though she ate 65% of dinner that night. Throughout the night, bunnies will spawn in your room and you'll have to click on them to collect them. You then feed these bunnies to Venus in the kitchen camera. Very fucked up, Venus. These bunnies are cute. Venus has a hefty 4 different penalties, actually being one of the highest in the game. Wabbit hunting will make the bunnies in your office jump around, making them harder to click. Except they're still not hard to click, so it's not that bad. Depopulation will make the bunnies spawn less frequently. Wanderer will make Venus randomly move around your cameras instead of camping the kitchen. And Mako will add Venus's friend Mako into your office. If you click on him, you'll die. Venus is very fun to play with. Their mechanic is satisfying, clicking on the bunnies is fun, and even most of their penalties aren't too bad. S tier. Cyrex is the next character we need to talk about, and I absolutely hate her. She starts in the ticket booth and slowly makes her way to your office. Before she gets to your office, you'll have to go to the ticket booth camera and call her to your office manually and then put the mask on. If she gets to your office by herself, I'm assuming you can guess what happens. And if you couldn't have already guessed, her penalties aren't much better. Rising aggression makes her make you put the mask on longer the longer you take to call her to your office. And Call Tracker will randomize the camera the call button is on every time you use it. This character is Torment. This character is Anguish, F tier. Next we have Ellie, another character so potently AIDS I fear even talking about her. Her goal is to chew the wires in the storage room to cut your power. You will have to watch for her in either hall. When she's in one, you must make sure the door on that side is open and shake a box of snacks on that side of the office to lure her inside of the office. She will leave shortly thereafter. If your office door isn't open when you lure her, she will bang on the door and drain your power. She also has 3 penalties if this didn't already sound terrible enough. Shaker will force you to shake the bag of treats longer. Power Chomper will make Ellie drain more power when she bangs on your door, and Wind Skip will make her able to teleport from one hall to another without ever appearing in your window like she usually does. I don't think I have to explain why this character is awful to deal with. The rules that go along with her are far more complicated than any other character, F tier. The next character we have to begrudgingly talk about is Ammo. Ammo starts in the dining room and will slowly wander to your right door. Each camera he travels through will have an eject button with 2 power. Before Ammo reaches your office, you must press the eject button on any camera that has the eject power, which will then send him back to the dining room. Once a camera is out of power, there's no way to get it back. If this wasn't terrible sounding enough, you haven't even heard of his 3 penalties yet. Quiet Ammo will remove his sound cue when he moves. Single Take only allows each room to have 1 eject power instead of 2, and Demon adds Ammo's friend, Demon, who will randomly move around the ejectable cameras. If you eject a camera Demon is on, you will die. I hate this character. Dealing with him can be bad on higher AI values, but since he's nowhere near as bad as some of the other characters in this game, I'm putting him in D tier. And here we are, 29 pages into my script later, and we can talk about the final animatronic in this game, Swagman. Swagman has a pretty interesting mechanic I've actually never seen before. He will randomly wander around the cameras. You will have to stare at him to fill his swag meter up. If it goes all the way down, he will make you put the mask on for a long ass time. However, this mechanic isn't as bad as I'd usually say it is, because you can easily tell which camera Swagman is on because he lights it up. So, what about his 3 penalties? Well, Swagalicious makes him move from camera to camera faster, which can get annoying. Endless Swag will force you to put the mask on for the rest of the night if Swagman gets in, and Eye on the Swag will make Swagman's meter go up slower than usual. Overall, not a bad character, and no penalty that removes the ability to see what camera he's on. C tier. And there we go! That's every single character in Too Many Nights. I love how many there are. It leads to such a new and interesting experience every time you play, and I love it. But now I'd like to mention the general penalties that aren't specific to any character, as there are a few of those as well. Generally, from what I've noticed, it's much smarter to pick the general penalties over the character penalties, as it will be much more likely that they will be easier to deal with. Overtime will make each hour of the night last 2 seconds longer, and you can actually have 2 overtime penalties active at a time. Less power will, as the name suggests, make you start each night with less power, 10% to be exact, and you can have 3 of these penalties. Less room is a penalty that will give you 1 less option when selecting animatronics, and you can have 2 of them. All-Star will make the next enemy you add start at max AI value. Stranger Danger will add a random character you don't already have at a very low AI value, and Midnight Motivation will make all characters' AI value increase at 3 AM. All-Star, Stranger Danger, and Midnight Motivation are probably going to be penalties you always want to avoid, but I personally don't think the other characters are that bad. Next up, I'd like to talk about the characters that you can unlock to play as, because if you remember, each character has different pros and cons for you to choose from. To start, each character has a different amount of lives they'll start you with. Getting jump scared by an animatronic will cause you to lose 1 of these lives, giving you multiple opportunities if you mess up. And of course, I'll be putting these guys on a tier list as well. The first character you will have by default is Michael. He gives you 3 hearts and has no abilities. He's as basic can get, really. D tier. You also, by default, have 3 other much more interesting characters. The first being Elizabeth. She gives you 4 hearts and forces the enemies to have their AI values increase slower. But as a con, you'll receive half the amount of coins you'd usually get. The low AI value honestly makes her pretty valuable, but of course, never being able to buy anything is never fun. C tier. Evan is the next auto-unlocked character. He gives you 3 hearts, makes all enemies start on a higher AI value, but to compensate, nets you 1.5x more coins, which will be nice for when we talk about shops later in the video. High AI values are never super great, especially if you're dogshit at FNAF games like I am, but overall he is nowhere near the worst character to choose. C tier. Cassidy is the last character you'll unlock by default. She only gives you 1 heart and makes every single enemy start at maximum aggression, and forces you to pick a penalty every single night. She also will never allow you to see shops. Instead, you can use your money to remove penalties and animatronics. I don't care that you can remove things. Having to pick a penalty every night whilst also only having 1 heart is pure AIDS. F tier. Henry is the first character on the list to unlock. However, you can unlock them in pretty much any order you want. Henry is unlocked by beating at least 1 night while using Michael, Elizabeth, Evan, and Cassidy. Something that should be very easy to pull off. He gives you 3 hearts and gives you way more options when picking enemies, penalties, and shop items. However, you will be forced to pick more enemies and more penalties. The last thing you're going to want to do is give yourself more threats. So even though your option pool is bigger, the cons outweigh the pros here a lot. D tier. Gabriel can be unlocked by having 2 penalties active in a run that affect Freddy. He gives you 3 hearts, gives you a guaranteed shop every single night. But as a downside, each character comes with a few of their penalties already added. I'm sure you know what I'm going to say, and a lot of character-specific penalties are horrific. Sure, you may never have to pick a penalty after beating a night, but I really don't care about that as much as getting butt-fucked by character penalties. F tier. Jeremy can be unlocked by getting a power outage on night 3 and beyond and still surviving the night. Generally one of the harder characters to unlock. He gives you 5 hearts, you start the run with 500% power instead of 100%, the nights are shorter than usual, but as a downside, your power carries over from night to night. But don't let that fool you. 500% power is a lot of fucking power, and if you're good at enemy building, you can easily make that last a long time. And 5 hearts is a fuck ton. Easy A tier character. Susie will be unlocked if you die to Chica twice in a single night and then beat that night. She gives 3 hearts. Each enemy starts at max AI value, but you gain 1 life after you beat a night. Now, at first glance, this may sound really bad, but I actually had my second best run ever using Susie, and it's 100% because of that life gain. With characters always on max difficulty, there's no way for them to get harder, so you'll get used to them at their hardest difficulty pretty quickly. Sure, she's not the best, but she definitely isn't as bad as she sounds. B tier. Fritz is unlocked by having 100 or more coins at one time in a single run. He gives you 2 hearts, and your lives are attached to the number of coins you have. To be specific, for every 50 coins you have, that equals 1 heart. Overall, this character is more confusing than it will ever be useful, actively discouraging you from ever buying anything. You're better off just using Michael, as there's no real downside. D tier. Fitzgerald is unlocked by beating night 5 in a run whilst only picking the leftmost enemies and penalties. I actually struggled a bit unlocking this character, so what does he do? Well, you start with 3 hearts, and each enemy and penalty are randomized each night, meaning the 3 enemies you pick on night 1 will be different on night 2, and you can also pay to reroll, as well as getting a shop every single night. This character really just serves as what I'm going to call a challenge character. You would never actually want to bring this character into a legitimate run, and because of that, I'm giving him an F tier. Sally is easily the most unique character out of all of the normal ones, and I'll explain what normal means in a bit. You unlock her by beating a night with both Percy Poodle and Rowan Rat on max AI values. Sally introduces a brand new mechanic, that being the pup pal from Playtime with Percy. It works in the exact same way as in that game, and the best part, your progress on the night is tied to it. No more waiting out the night. You will have to complete the games on the pup pal for the night to end. Again, this goes to serve as more of a challenge character than anything else, as playing Sally will by default make the game much harder, and because of this, I'm giving her F tier. Again, not because she's not a fun character, but because if you're trying to get far in a run, she's not the character for you. And finally, we have the man himself, Scott Cawthon, who is unlocked by completing Night 3 with every other character in the game. And of course, since he's the final character, he has the most interesting mechanic. He himself doesn't have any abilities, instead letting you pick the pros and cons from every other character in the game, allowing you to mix and match your favorite pieces from other characters. You don't need me to tell you that Scott is a broken character. I'm pretty sure you can figure that out. Easy S tier. And boom, that's every single playable character in Too Many Nights. So now we can start talking about the items that can be bought in the shop. I won't be going over each and every one since there are literally a fuck ton to talk about, and this video is already long enough. But I do want to talk about some of the best ones to look out for. Early Out is an item that will make each night 2 seconds shorter. More Power will start each night with 10% more power. More Room will give you more options when picking animatronics. The Empress will give you 1 life and give you more options when picking animatronics. The Emperor will decrease every animatronic's AI value by 2. The Chariot will have you start each night with 15% more power. The Hanged Man will remove 2 random penalties you have activated. Death removes a random enemy. The Moon makes each hour 3 seconds shorter. Fritz Children's Bible will make items you can't afford never show up in shops, and Sparked will make sparks appear randomly on cameras, and touching them will increase your power. Those are all of the yummy mashed potatoes in my belly items that I like to look out for in the shop. Again, there are a lot more, but I think it would just be really boring to go over all of them. But there you go. That's everything you need to know, and as far as I'm aware, everything that Too Many Nights has to offer. I would highly recommend you give this game a try. It is some of the most fun I've ever had since starting this channel, and I actually plan on doing some Too Many Nights streams here on this channel. If that's something you're interested, let me know. Also, if you were interested, Too Many Nights is actually getting a version 2.1, and it's being worked on as I'm writing this. I'm super excited to see what it has to offer once it's fully released. This game is so incredibly unique and combines 2 of my favorite game genres of all time into one amazing game. The art style is unique, the community input is fantastic, and of course, the gameplay and gameplay loop are impeccable. What makes a horror game truly scary? Is it jump scares, atmosphere, build-up? Well, of course, all of these things together and more is what builds up a horror game to be something amazing. But I think if I had to choose one word to answer the question, what makes a horror game truly scary, my answer would be realism. In order for your game to be truly scary, I feel like the player has to be able to connect with your game on a personal level. And what better way to make that happen than to make the environment around them feel real? The game we'll be talking about today, I feel, pulled this off almost perfectly. A Five Nights at Freddy's fan game that was able to capture the real feel of an office, an environment, and realistic means of self-defense in a situation that seems so dire you'd think you'd never be able to make it out to tell the tale. The game we'll be covering today is Freddy's Reanimated, the most realistic FNAF game ever made. Reanimated does not begin like most FNAF games tend to. This game opens to a dark void. We're told that when we die, we will be brought back to this void and that we won't be remembered. However, if we are to be remembered, what is the name we'd like etched into our headstone? And it's here where we can actually choose a name for our character. Afterwards, we're booted into the menu where we can begin the game. As the game begins, we're given a pretty eerie opening cinematic, something pretty uncommon with Five Nights at Freddy's games. It serves to show how we found the job online on a listing site to work as a security guard for 5 days in an abandoned pizzeria. Fantastic! I know myself personally would never accept a job that I know for a fact won't even last a week, but hey, different strokes for different folks, I suppose. With that, we're thrown into the first night where I can talk about hands down one of my favorite parts about this game. Loading into the office, we're hit with something crazy. This game looks real. The office looks like an actual office, with objects placed around that actually look like they should be there, not just a random assortment of items like we typically see in FNAF games. And the sound design is amazing. This game looks real, it sounds real, and I think that's one of the big reasons why people love this game so much. it tries to feel real. Watch for when he's closest. He can be tricked easily. What the fuck does that mean, bro? Holy shit. Oh my god. What the fuck? This looks sick. Of course, like most FNAF games tend to do, we have a phone call on each night to listen to. Instead of the usual where the phone guy at least sounds somewhat like they know what they're doing, the phone guy in Reanimated sounds baked out of his fucking mind.
Speaking of which, the only reason we have a security guard job right now is because the place is being demolished soon. So we don't want any funny business going on at night.
He tells us the basics of our camera. Who cares? That's my job. What he does say that's actually of note is that the building we're in has been abandoned for over a decade. And the only reason we're watching over it now is because the building is about to be demolished. And for some reason, they're concerned about funny business going on because of that. I have no idea what funny business is supposed to mean. My first guess was people breaking in to steal something, but then I thought, well, that doesn't make sense. People could have been stealing from this place for the last 10 plus years. Why would they all of a sudden decide they needed to do this now? Maybe it means graffiti, but the place is being demolished, so who cares? This is such a weird thing to latch onto, but I just feel like it's strange to mention this now. And it does actually bring up a good question. Why would you hire someone to guard a building that won't exist in 5 days? But you never hired a guard for the past 10 years that it was abandoned. It almost makes you wonder if they were expecting something to happen. And maybe that's why they're demolishing it. Before I get into any of the characters, let's talk about the controls of this game and the 3 tools at our disposal. You can only look in 2 directions in this game, at your computer and at your door and window. Something super interesting about this door is that it is actually just a door, which is pretty scary in a game like this where your doors are mainly known as your only means of defense. You can pull the blinds of your window down if you want to, and when I first found that out, I was reasonably concerned as to why. I see this right here, and I know this game's about to be fucked. I know this game is about to be so fucked, dude. It's just a normal fucking door. Bro, these motherfuckers gonna open the shit out of that thing. And we'll get into why in just a minute. But first, I really want to talk about the cameras and why they serve to be one of the most difficult things to deal with in this entire game. Upon looking at the cameras, you'll realize there's no typical camera map and buttons. Instead, there's just arrows at the bottom of the cameras that you can click to move from one camera to the next, fairly slowly. This is brilliant in 2 ways. With the realism approach that this game is taking, looking at the surroundings, we can tell that this game takes place a pretty long time ago in 2013. We can tell this because of the confirm window at the beginning of the game being Windows 7 and the fact that the game tells us. But I just wanted to seem cool by pointing out that I knew what the Windows 7 UI was. Shut up. And yes, 2013 was a long time ago. I know for some of you it may not feel like it, but it was 12 years ago. That's older than some of my audience who, let's be honest, really shouldn't be watching my videos. Mom and dad, monitor your kids, fuckhead. Knowing this, and knowing that the game is aiming to be realistic, opting to use a slow, outdated system like this is genius. Even if, yes, I think it's AIDS and very annoying. However, once we start talking about the way this game plays, I'll bring up why I think the way these cameras are set up is needed. Anyways, on to the reason why I think this is as annoying as it is. Mainly because it's not consistent in one way that I would expect it to be. There are 9 cameras in total to surf through. When you reach camera 9, if you press the forward arrow again, you will be sent back to camera 1. That makes sense. So, what do you think happens if you press the back arrow while on camera 1? If you said you go back to camera 9, you would be completely wrong because the back arrow doesn't even fucking exist on camera 1. Why is this the case? I have no idea. If it was consistent either way, this wouldn't bother me, but you can cycle in one direction and not the other. And yes, this is noticeable and it does matter. Now we can finally talk about the first threat this game throws at you. I'm sure you could have guessed who it is. That's right, it's Chica. I lied, it's Bonnie. Of course it's Bonnie. Surprisingly, each character in this game attacks you in a unique way. Even though we only have 3 tools, this game somehow manages to make each character vastly different from one another, and I think that's amazing. Bonnie's main goal is to sneak into your office. He will move around the cameras until he gets to your door. And when he gets to your door, be ready. Close that motherfucker! Oh my god. Dude, literally fuck that. Literally fuck that. The moment I saw this, I knew that this was getting a Dxtr White video. And even the people in my comments over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, knew that this game was getting a White video. I actually had another video lined up for this week, and I've chosen to postpone it so that I could talk about this game first, since I love it so much. It's moments like these that FNAF games need. Once Bonnie is at your window, all you have to do is hold down your blinds until you hear his big fat feet galloping away. Not an overtly difficult character to deal with, but really paves the way for what the rest of this game has to offer. Luckily for us, there's a post-night minigame section after each night that we get to talk about. But hold up, Dxtr. Don't you usually hate post-night minigames? Yeah, typically I do. However, this game's post-night minigames don't make me want to shove a porcupine in my asshole backwards. There's no repetitive 8-bit minigames, and again, what we're doing in these minigames still feels realistic. After completing the night, we get another call from the phone guy. He asks us before we head home to go into the storage room and find an old computer, which we can use to upload some old pictures and footage of the building to the cloud. He says he wants to upload some of the interesting stuff to his personal blog, which I'm sure violates some sort of contract, but who am I to care? I break the law all the time. For example, if I was in the UK, I'd probably be arrested on the spot because of the language I choose to use. Anyways, something I think is cool is that we actually get to walk into the back room. We don't just miraculously get placed there. This will become important later, by the way. After walking into the storage room, we can access the computer and start uploading files to the cloud. You'll notice that you can turn to the exit of the room. For now, it's unknown why. After waiting for ages for the upload to finish, we walk out of the storage room and finish out our shift, moving on to night 2. On night 2, we get another call from the phone guy, where we find out that our player is actually trying to do something about the fact that the characters are moving. Apparently, we sent an email to the phone guy explaining that we saw Bonnie moving. We called him the creepy rabbit, which seemed to frustrate the phone guy a little bit, to the point he corrected us on his name.
Oh yeah, and that creepy rabbit you were talking about, he has a name. It's Bonnie.
Sure, this could have just been playful, but I get the funny feeling it's not. The threat introduced on this night is Chica, arguably the least threatening character in this entire game. Chica will randomly wander around your cameras, and she has the chance to charge at your door from 2 of those cameras. Except the difference with Chica approaching your door is that closing the blinds will not stop her. She can attack on cameras 2 and camera 4. You can tell when she's going to attack based on the position she's standing in. On camera 2, she'll be very close to the camera, and in camera 4, she'll be on the very left side of the camera. When she is in either of these 2 positions, you will need to use the flash button on your cameras to flash said camera and scare her away. You may be wondering why there's a flash on these cameras. That's not very realistic, and Dxtr, you told me this whole game was realistic. And now hear me out. Usually I'd agree with you, but I want you to take that concern like a boomerang and launch it as far away from you as possible. Night 2's post-night minigame has us go back to the computer in the storage room to fiddle with the power system. Now this you can complain about because I have no idea what the hell that is supposed to mean. And actually doing the task doesn't really answer anything either. We are shown a series of sliders that we have to quite literally fiddle with. Apparently doing so will reset the power. How do you tell you've put the sliders in the correct spot? Well, you just have to do trial and error. Move one slider a single place, press reset, and if it turns red, change it again. This is very monotonous. If only there was something else on this night to cure my boredom. I don't want to look back. What did I tell you? It's moments like these that really make these FNAF games stand out. To any future FNAF devs, Do cool shit. Your game does not have to be stupidly hard to be memorable. It just has to do cool things. And this is some of the coolest shit I've ever seen. While looking at the computer, Bonnie will slowly try to creep closer and closer to you. You will have to look back at him lest he shoot his Jeep juice all over your spine. You can actually watch him walk backwards while you look at him, almost like he knows you've noticed he's moved, and is attempting to readjust himself, so you go back to looking away. What the fuck? Oh my god, oh my god, oh my fucking god! Did you see that shit? Motherfucker just crip walked back, he moonwalked. It's honestly some of the creepiest shit I've ever seen come out of a FNAF game, and I love it. After completing this minigame and turning towards the door, you'll realize that Bonnie has gone away, obviously getting bored of you because you're boring. So all we have to do now is walk out of the building. You want me to walk out that motherfucking door? You honestly want me to walk out that fucking door? I mean, I'll do it, but fuck. Oh my fucking god! This game is fucking awesome, by the way. But now it's time to move on to night 3. On night 3, the phone guy says he got another email from us because we told him that Chica was now moving too. He said that in case anyone else starts moving, we should use the flash, because they're probably not used to bright lights. Again, I find this weird coming from him. And come to think of it, why would any of the animatronics from any FNAF game be sensitive to light? They're always on stage where bright lights are beaming on them almost constantly. So I just find it odd how much the phone guy seems to want us to do this. He ends off the call by stating he wanted to tell us a story, but he's out of time. Maybe we'll hear that story another day. For now, let me tell you the story of Sparky the dog. You remember, the hoax character that was said to be in Five Nights at Freddy's 1 way back in the day? Yeah, for some reason he's in this game. And he's the threat introduced on night 3. His mechanics are simple, but really start to show how annoying this camera system is going to become. Occasionally, Sparky will bark. When he does, he will be teleported to a random camera. You will have to find which camera he's on and flash him. Am I a huge fan of this mechanic? No, not at all. And I'm really not a fan when I have to meticulously scrape through each camera one by one. Overall, so far, it's not going to be all too bad. Keep your eyes on Chica, find Sparky every once in a while, and occasionally hold the blinds for Bonnie. Simple sugar, not so bad. But trust me, it'll get bad pretty damn fast. After completing the shift, we get another call from the phone guy. He tells us the cameras have been acting strange, and that we should use the computer in the storage room to reset them. He also curiously mentions that he has remote access to the camera system. So that brings up the question, why the fuck are we even here? If someone else is able to watch the cameras in the safety of their own home, where there aren't a bunch of murder robots trying to butt fuck them, who cares? Let's just finish our shift and head to the storage room.
I'll see you on the flip side.
I'll see you in the grave, asshole. So let me tell you a little something. Oh my fucking god! I love this game. I don't know if that was obvious or not. Entering the storage room is when we enter by far the most difficult minigame section in this entire game. I'm not kidding. We're tasked with literally just holding a button down on the PC. Once it charges all the way, we'll reset a camera and move on to the next one. However, when you let go, the bar will very quickly decrease. That may not sound so bad. It would only be bad if we had a certain purple distraction trying to blow our backs out now, wouldn't it? What the fuck? What? Bro, he's fast as shit. Bonnie is the sole reason why this minigame is so AIDS. Bonnie, for some reason, thought that today was the day he was going to take the Rock Lee ankle weights off and show us his true speed. Bonnie is so astronomically fast during this minigame, it's not even funny. 3, 2, 3. Oh my motherfucking god. Oh my fucking god. Oh my fucking god. Can I break his knees? You have maybe 2 seconds of time to look at the screen before he kills you, so you have to be fast. And what adds to the difficulty of this night The hitbox of the progress bar you have to click and hold. Swiping your mouse back and forth to check on Bonnie, then moving back to the computer is insanity. And when you come back, you have to hold the position of your mouse on this tiny little progress bar and continue to hold. But you can only hold for maybe 1 second before you have to turn back around to Bonnie and wait for him to walk all the way back to the door. And keep in mind, the progress bar is decreasing every time you look away, so you're really just fucked. And once you complete a camera is when you notice you have to fix 3 more. And if you ever die to Bonnie, go back into them all over again. Fuck you. This minigame took me around 30 minutes to finally complete. It's unironically the second hardest canonical challenge in this game, and I would love to have to never do it again. Oh, but one more interesting detail about this minigame. The final camera you fix briefly shows Foxy in the camera. Oh boy, I hope that's not foreshadowing or something. After completing that hell, we don't have to almost get touched by any robots on our way out and are free to move on to night 4. The phone guy calls us and fucking rambles about some bullshit I don't care about. He says that there was an ancient civilization that archaeologists found, and those researchers were later haunted by handprints of the ancient civilization. Again, I really don't give a fuck. This is purely symbolic for the story of the game, which I'll talk about later. But this was the story he was itching to tell us. I would rather itch my balls than hear him talk about that again. The threat introduced on this night is Foxy. Spoiler alert, the camera was foreshadowing something. Foxy acts exactly how you think Foxy would act. You have to look at him to stall him, and if you don't, he'll run to your office. But as I'm sure you could have guessed, he too doesn't care about your door. Watching him will push him back, so just make sure you're doing that. Something of note is how Foxy breaks the cycle you've been really trying to build up throughout the game, forcing you to develop a new one. Up until this point, watching Chica has probably been your main focus, but now with the character that demands even more attention, I'm sure you could figure out why Foxy will put a big wrench into your plans. Now you have to find a way to constantly watch Foxy and Chica, and lucky us, Foxy is on camera 6, several cameras away from Chica's attack cameras. This game knows what it's doing. Sure, it's frustrating, but it's also genius. In this post-night minigame, we're told we have to fix a ventilation problem. Phone guy tells us it's just turning a few knobs. The ventilation room is in a door right off of the storage room, so the storage room is where we go. I don't see anyone yet. Hi, Bonnie. Were you expecting me to go there? Were you expecting to cut me off? Sorry, asshole. Not gonna happen. Is that not horrifying? Bonnie is standing right next to the computer we've been going to every night. He's starting to remember our patterns, getting to the computer before we can in hopes that he could jump us. But lucky for us, the computer is not where we need to go this time. Entering into the ventilation room, we have 6 knobs in front of us and 2 large vents to our left and right. Pretty reminiscent of the office from Pizzeria Simulator. I wonder if anything is going to come through those vents to try and kill us. Silly little viewer. Of course there is. This minigame's threat is Foxy. Throughout the minigame, Foxy will make quiet sound cues in whichever vent he's about to attack from. When you hear him, all you have to do is turn to stare at him until he goes away. Meanwhile, you have to painfully slowly turn these 6 knobs, which will take a very long time. Because as you get closer to having them all finish, it seems that Foxy will attack you more and more frequently. After completing this task, we can leave with no other funny business taking place. Finally, we're left with one last night. One last thing standing in our way, and this game holds no punches in introducing it. Before you is something long forgotten. Something that was once loved and cherished, but now it lies broken. It is left abandoned. You know what becomes of something long forgotten. It dies a second death. It grows cold. It is unmoving. But what if some things don't wish to be forgotten? Do you know what happens when something refuses to be forgotten? It becomes angry. Anger is eternal. Anger grows, it festers, it burns, it writhes, and then it finally happens. it is given new life. It returns to us. It haunts us. However, it doesn't return as it once was. It returns as something else, something unrecognizable. Through its anger, it is reanimated. And with that, we're given one final message. The flash slows him down. Godspeed. When I first read that message, it gave me chills for some reason. It's like just by reading that, I knew what I was about to experience. Absolute agony. We get another call from the phone guy. He explains his reasoning for why he thinks the robots are alive. He thinks they're angry that they've been forgotten about and left abandoned for years, and he couldn't be more right. Night 5 introduces Freddy. Holy fucking shit, Freddy. Freddy is by far the most dangerous character in this entire game. When Freddy moves forward, he will never move backwards. And once he gets to your office, it's over for you. Yo, get the fuck away from that fucking door! You get the fuck away from that door! What? Oh, fuck, dude. Freddy is a dick. Raps. How do you stall Freddy? By using the flash, of course. When you flash Freddy, he will cover his eyes. Something interesting to note is that Freddy is the only character to be animated on the cameras. Such a small detail, but a detail I think is really cool. If you really want to make sure Freddy doesn't move, you'll have to time his intervals, since they don't vary, and make sure you're onto his camera and flash him at quite literally every single opportunity. You don't have much time to waste, as Freddy is fast. Really fucking fast. I don't quite have the vocabulary necessary to describe how intense this night really is. And if you get bad Sparky spawns like I often did, you could easily spend hours on this night. I was lucky enough to only have it take me a single hour. But if you manage to control your nerves long enough to complete this night, we will have one final minigame to talk about. After completion, we get one final call from the phone guy. He very ominously tells us to enter the dining room. He says he wants to show us something. Upon entering the dining room, we're greeted by all 5 animatronics staring back at us. The camera to the dining room flashes, and we hear the phone guy, named Ralph, explain that the reason it flashes is so that you can take a screenshot of the camera. Ow! Oh! Oh! Fuck! See? That's why I told you to make it a boomerang. Ralph then used that image to post on his blog. He's been using these camera images for his blog all week, and we were the bait. One last goodbye is said, and the restaurant goes quiet. The gameplay of Freddy's Reanimated is incredible. There's no doubting that. This game, of course, has a custom night, with 3 additional unlockable characters. The first of which being Bon Bon, who's actually a reference to the game Freddy's Web Adventure. Pretty cool. Occasionally, he will appear on your cameras. If you don't click him fast enough, he will disable all of them for the remainder of the night. The next character you can unlock is called the Hawk. He acts as a Phantom Chica-like character. He will periodically appear on the cameras, blocking the view, and if you don't turn away from him, he will kill you. Pretty simple, but in a game where the cameras are super important, this guy can be a big pain in the ass. Finally, the last character you can unlock is Sienna, by far the most cancerous of the Custom Night 3. She will occasionally block the clock next to your door, which somehow prevents time from passing. This is a Custom Night character that can drop the realism at this point. All you have to do is click her nose and she will go away and the time will continue to pass. Altogether, completing a Custom Night with these 3 additional characters is a torture I would never want to put myself through. But shout out to Dark Ryun who was able to pull it off, and whose footage you're seeing right now. I should mention that the Custom Night does have a secret ending, but I'll bring it up when I talk about the story of this game. Which, you know, we'll do right now. The story of Freddy's Reanimated is honestly one of the most surprisingly thoughtful pieces of writing I've ever seen in a FNAF fan game. It's not about murder, or purple men, or endless timelines that make my brain feel like fucking mashed potatoes. It's about being forgotten, and about what happens when something that used to bring people joy is left to rot and fade away. The entire game is built on this theme: nostalgia, decay, and the quiet horror of being erased from memory. Freddy's Reanimated takes place inside Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place, a restaurant that's already dead by the time we get there. It used to be loved. Kids laughed, parents smiled, the animatronics performed, and everything was fine, until it wasn't. Over time, the crowd stopped coming, the lights dimmed, the laughter stopped. The building was abandoned and left to gather dust for over a decade. No massacres, no missing children, just nothing. The kind of death most things really suffer. When the game starts, we're told the place is finally being demolished, and Ralph, the manager, hires a night guard to keep an eye on the place for the last few days. That's us. But before us, there was another guard, Mike Schmidt. Yeah, that Mike Schmidt. He worked one night, just one, and didn't make it out. In the demo of this game, we actually see what happened. Mike survives until 6 a.m. The power cuts, and Freddy himself storms into the office and literally bites his head off. No mystery, no cover-up. It's brutal, it's direct, and it sets the tone for everything that follows. When Ralph brings us in months later, he acts like none of that ever happened. He's casual, a little too calm, and gives us these half-baked instructions that sound like he's either high out of his mind or hiding something. He keeps asking us to do these little tasks: fix the power, upload old files, check the cameras, all while brushing off the fact that the animatronics are moving. Every night, our character emails Ralph describing what they saw, and every night Ralph dances around the truth. He never says, "You're wrong," but he never says, "You're right" either. It's like he knows what's going on, but refuses to say it out loud. Then, finally, on the last night, Ralph tells us a story he's been dying to share. He says that back in the 1940s, archaeologists discovered a cave covered in human handprints. The people who found it were haunted by those same handprints for the rest of their lives. Like the dead were reaching out just to remind them they were still there. And Ralph thinks the same thing is happening to Freddy's. He believes the animatronics are moving because they refuse to be forgotten. That after sitting abandoned for over a decade, their anger, this pure, desperate rage, literally reanimated them. Not out of vengeance, not because of possession, but because of memory. Because they were once loved and then left behind. It's such a fascinating take. The idea that these animatronics aren't evil, they're afraid. Afraid of fading away. It's one of the first FNAF fan games I've seen that makes you feel sorry for the monsters chasing you. They're not killing you because they want to, they're killing you because they don't want to disappear. After you survive the final night, Ralph asks you to head into the dining room. He says he wants to show you something. When you enter, all 5 animatronics are standing there, waiting for you. It's one of the eeriest visuals in the entire game. Completely still, completely silent. Ralph activates the camera flash, and the screen freezes in a burst of light. Then he says,
I finally figured out what the flash button does. It lights up the room so that you can take a screenshot of the camera you're looking at. I finally have more recent images from my blog.
And that's when it hits you. The whole time, we weren't protecting the building, we were the bait. Ralph was using us to get the footage and screenshots he wanted for his personal blog, to turn the remains of this haunted restaurant into online content, the same way we, as players, chase nostalgia. Ralph chases it too. He's obsessed with documenting something that's supposed to be gone. After everything, the building is demolished. Ralph's posts about it online, sparking renewed interest in Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place. People remember it again. The animatronics, those same restless spirits that didn't want to be forgotten, finally get what they wanted. They are remembered. And then they rest. The player gets their paycheck. The story ends not with a scream, but with silence. It's such a powerful way to close things out. Freddy's Reanimated isn't about surviving animatronics. It's about the fear of being erased. It's about what happens when the world moves on and leaves you behind. Even the custom night ending reflects that idea. Mike Schmidt's death is written off as a bear attack, just a tiny headline, nothing more. And Freddy Fazbear himself, lying in the rubble, surrounded by everything that used to be alive, now just forgotten scraps of metal. For a game that's meant to be realistic, it's ironic that the story is one of the most human I've ever seen in this genre. Freddy's Reanimated isn't just the most realistic FNAF game ever made, it's one of the most real stories the community has ever told. Would you like to hear one last interesting piece of information I have to share? There is a secret in this game up until this point. As far as I'm aware, nobody has ever found it, and I can guarantee you've never seen it before. A secret so rare that the chances of finding it exceed luck that no human has ever had. And I want to thank City, the author of the FNAF fan game wiki, for providing me with this information and allowing me to share it with you guys. We know that Michael got bitten and killed by Freddy, but did you know you can actually see Michael's corpse inside of the game? You just have to be incredibly lucky. To start, you must have already beaten the main game. No custom night completion is necessary. Then you have to restart the game from night 1. Before completing night 3, you will have to die at least 5 times. Then, upon beating night 3, when entering the hallway, there's a 1 in 10,000 chance to see the corpse. Slight gore warning, by the way. This is probably the most realistic looking gore I've ever seen in a FNAF game. If you can pull all of that off and get more lucky than any human on Earth, this is what you will see in the hallway. Truly some of the scariest shit I've ever seen. When you think of the best FNAF games, what games do you think of? What are your top 5 in terms of quality alone? I'm willing to bet that a lot of people share some of the same entries, and I'm willing to bet that the game we'll be talking about today is at the top of some of your lists, because it's definitely at the top of mine. The Glitched Attraction is a FNAF fan game developed by 2 18-year-old developers alone. The reason I mention their age is because of how impressive this game really is, and how impressive it is that only 2 brand new adults managed to design it themselves. When I first learned how old these guys were, I was shocked. The Glitched Attraction is one of the best FNAF games I've ever played. I know a few of you watch my content to get suggestions for FNAF games to play, and for those of you that do not pass this one up. It is one of the most high-quality experiences of all time. Let's not waste any more time and hop into the Glitched Attraction, FNAF's most high-quality FNAF game ever made. Our game begins with us getting a text from a friend asking us to come check out the new Fazbear escape room attraction, and they tell us to bring all of our things along with us. A request that is definitely weird, but since when has weird ever meant bad in a FNAF game before, am I right? So we do just that, pack up all of our things and set out. You heard it here first. The Glitched Attraction is seriously a Five Nights at Freddy's escape room, a concept that sounded so cool I couldn't not check this game out, and I'm glad I did. We arrive at the attraction and 2 helper bots explain what's going to happen, and then we have to give over everything we have. Why the fuck did we bring everything we own if we're just going to give it to some random robots? This is pretty fishy smelling, and I should know because I haven't showered in 8 weeks. With the general rules explained, we continue onto the first section of the escape room as chipper as we can be. We're kicking our feet and heel clicking and shit, we're so giddy. Not knowing what we're getting ourselves into, we can dive into the first room of the Glitched Attraction. The first room has us in a room similar in style to the bedroom from Five Nights at Freddy's 4. This room, being the first, isn't very difficult, but let me go over the 4 threats you can find in this room. While you're trying to think, focus, and not be a fuck-up, Nightmare Balloon Boy will be sitting on a chair, because his fat ass wouldn't ever dream of helping anyone, but would instead prefer to sit there and be pointless. But sometimes, he gets a little antsy. You can tell when he's like this because he will visibly seize in his chair until you shine your flashlight at him. It's weird that doing this causes his seizure to stop though, because when I quickly shined a flashlight in my epileptic friend's eyes, he went comatose on the ground and started foaming at the mouth. But to each their own, I guess. If you don't aid in Balloon Boy's assisted suicide, he will jump off the chair and kill you. Something interesting I noted is that Balloon Boy actually makes no noise when he shakes or even when he jumps off of his chair, leading to a majority of his jump scares feeling really awkward. I get why he doesn't make any noise, because it'd be way too easy to not lose track of him, but just something I thought I'd bring up. You'll realize there's a giant window in this room as well, which lets you see outside. Occasionally, you'll be able to see Nightmare Fredbear stalking you from between the trees. Little does he know that his eyes are actually signal beams as bright as those stupid fucking white LEDs that are now being put onto vehicles, so that when I'm driving at night, everybody's headlights look like they have their fucking brights on. So when I flash my brights at them indicating to turn theirs down, then they actually turn their brights on, which simulate what I can only imagine to be the lights of God. And then I feel like an asshole because I just flashed a guy who didn't have their brights on. Sorry to go off on a tangent like that. I just really had to get my frustration about LEDs on cars out of the way, and I really didn't have a good outlet to do so. Anyways, you'll see Fredbear slowly inch closer to your window throughout the challenge, and when he gets super close, you'll have to close the curtains until you hear him laugh, signaling to you that he's gone away, and then you can reopen the curtains. Why on earth do you not just choose to keep the curtains closed for the whole time then? I have no idea. It's not like we need the moonlight to see. The bots at the beginning gave us a fucking flashlight, but whatever, I guess. Speaking of your flashlight, little tiny stupid insignificant Freddles will periodically appear around your room. They make the same noise as they do in FNAF 4, so hearing them shouldn't be a problem, especially considering how god-awful annoying they sound. Shine your flashlight at them and bada bing bada boom, they go away. But if you let 3 stay in your room and assault your eardrums for too long, 2 of them will grab either one of your butt cheeks as the third dives headfirst into your rectum, which some of you sick fucks may find pleasing, but I for one do not. The final threat you have to worry about is Night Marionette. If you somehow, by some miracle, haven't noticed in the footage I've been showing on screen so far, there's a giant hole busted into the wall of the room, which is very poorly boarded up. Why is it boarded up? I hear you asking? Oh yeah, forgot to mention, it's only because, Satan is in there, with enough tentacles to make hentai for the next 9,000 years. But, putting that thought aside, Night Marionette will occasionally give a sound cue to let you know she's there. If you look at the hole, you'll be able to see those tentacles creeping out. At this point, you'll need to make a mad dash to the Golden Freddy suit, which is conveniently placed in the room with you, and hide inside of it. Once you do so for long enough, Night Marionette will leave. Now, hold on. I'm not done talking about this stupid fucking Golden Freddy costume yet. I have some complaining to do, if you could imagine. This Golden Freddy suit takes about, 2 fucking decades to put on. I'm not kidding. You will feel like this game is broken or has paused as you are putting this fucking thing on. But if that wasn't enough, taking it off is somehow even worse. Rather than just exiting the costume, instead, the game thought it would be a great idea to have you teleport out of the costume, where you think you'd be able to continue moving around and interacting with things. But no, that'd be too convenient. Instead, once you teleport out of the costume, you have to just stand there for about 4 seconds doing absolutely nothing. No moving, no using your flashlight, just standing there like a dunce as time still passes around you. While in the Golden Freddy costume, did you happen to notice that Balloon Boy was tweaking out? Okay, cool. Night Marionette's gone, let's quickly exit the costume and flash Balloon Boy. Oh wait! Instead of flashing Balloon Boy, i.e. saving your own life, let's instead stand there like we have an iron deficiency for 5 fucking minutes as Balloon Boy twerks his fat jiggly ass all over his goddamn chair. I really needed to get that out of my system. Surely I won't have to complain for the rest of the video now, right? Anyways, how do we actually beat this room's challenge? Good question. You'll notice on the wall there's a picture of Freddy broken up into pieces, with each piece facing a different direction. You can turn each piece in order to make the picture look normal again, but you'll notice that one of the pieces is missing. On the dresser, you'll see the FNAF 4 box that Scott Cawthon wiped his ass with. Of course, it has 2 locks. You can find one of the keys to the locks in a drawer on the dresser, and the other key in the drawer of your nightstand. Using both of these keys to unlock the locks on the box, bars, opens it, revealing the last piece of the Freddy puzzle. You can take that piece and put it back in place to finish the puzzle, revealing a 6-digit code. Quick tip, this number is randomized every time you play it, so no fast speed running for you, sucker.
Going back to the nightstand, you can open a door to reveal a safe. You punch that 6-digit code into the safe, open it, and find a hammer. You can then use this hammer to take the nails off the wooden boards covering the closet door, then open the closet door and escape the bedroom. Do keep in mind that as you are trying to do this, you are getting fucked from all angles by about 179 different pieces of fuck. But overall, I think this is by far the easiest room to complete, which is probably how it should be given the fact that we have a lot more rooms to go through. Speaking of, let's get to the next one. The next room is much larger than the previous. This time there are only 3 threats: Toy Chica, Mangle, and the Cupcake. This room is basically a big circle. Chica will walk around the circle patrolling for you. If you get in her line of sight, she will start to chase you. If she catches you, she will throw the meanest right hook I've ever seen since Muzi. You can hide in any of the several lockers lining the walls, but be aware that not all lockers can open. And if you want to know something super awesome, which lockers open are randomized each time you play, meaning if you lose a run, some of the lockers you hid in before probably will be locked this time. Isn't that awesome? The Cupcake will also patrol around, but he is much less important. He himself can't end your run, but if you're not watching him and accidentally step on him, he will squeak, causing Chica to be alerted to your exact location. For me personally, I hate this type of mechanics in games. I want to note, I don't think they're bad mechanics, I just don't like them. When there's a puzzle, I would like to be able to focus on the puzzle without having to worry about being chased at the same time. It also doesn't help that I don't handle being chased very well in any game, period. But it definitely doesn't help when I'm trying to focus on solving a puzzle on top of that. Just a me thing. But if that wasn't enough for my poor heart to handle, we have Mangle tacked on top of that. Mangle is hiding in the ceiling throughout the challenge. Occasionally, you will hear vent noises. When you do, that's when you know Mangle is about to drop down on yo ass. She has 2 possible drop locations. If you hear the vent noises on a side of the room that you're not on, you can safely ignore her as long as you don't then move to the side she's on. But if you hear her on a side of the room that you are on, you have 2 options. You can either A, move to the other side of the room, which might be a problem if Chica is over there, or B, hide in a locker. If you don't hide and Mangle happens to see you when she drops down, she will start to chase you. And unlike Chica, when Mangle chases you, there's no way to make her stop. At that point, even hiding in a locker won't be enough to be able to protect your cheeks. So, about the puzzle I was bitching about earlier. You'll notice a large door locked via a pin. The pin is 6 digits long and consists of 6 different symbols. Around the dark room, you'll have to find sticky notes on the walls that correlate each symbol to a number, which will give you the code order needed to unlock the door. If you couldn't have guessed, yes, this is also randomized each time you play. Simply find all the notes, type in the code, and you're done. Come on, you didn't really fall for that, did you? That was way too easy. This is a FNAF game, remember? And according to the FNAF game dev rules, difficulty equals quality. So let's make this as hard as possible. After opening up the door and flipping 4 switches to turn the power to the room on, a whole new world of fuck opens up to us, including a brand new threat, Withered Freddy. Withered Freddy sits inside of a music box, which I find weird because the marionette is literally in this room. I don't know why they didn't just use her for this mechanic, but whatever. Freddy's music box will slowly wind down, and if you don't keep it wound up, he will right hook, shatter the glass, hop out, and chase you. Just like Mangle, there's no hiding. If you hide inside of a locker, Freddy will stand outside of it and wait for you to come out. And when you do, you guessed it, he eats your ass. But because the devs of this game hate their players, if you wind Freddy's music box up too much, he will also shatter the glass and then shatter your sphincter. Cool. As if this wasn't hard enough for poor old Dxtr to handle. What do we have to do now? Well, inside of the room you opened, there's some shit on the wall and we need to find some gears to make the contraption work. Again, you will just walk around the room and find all the needed gears and put them back in their place. Once you do, a door on the opposite side of the room will open and you'll have to make a sprint of fate over to it. And then finally, the room is complete. This room isn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. I actually really like the concept of adding another threat halfway through. I just personally hate it for reasons stated earlier, but that's just a skill issue on my part. Moving on. Do you like complex things? Well boy, do I have a treat for you. The third room challenge is a nightmare. Let's waste no time and do a Tolarian Community College level threat assessment. This room has 4 threats: Springtrap, Dreadbear, Phantom Foxy, and Phantom Balloon Boy. Phantom Balloon Boy is simple, so let's cover him first. He works just as he does in Five Nights at Freddy's 3. He can randomly appear on any of the cameras. If you look at him on the camera for too long, he will jump scare you and cause a video error. Except the video error in this game just means that the camera he jump scared you on can never be used again for the rest of the run, which I promise you is a very bad thing, and the reason will be revealed later. Phantom Foxy can appear in any of the 2 doors connecting to your office. If you look at him for too long, he will charge at you and jump scare you, causing a level of hallucinations to appear. If too many levels of hallucinations appear at once, it's game over. Now, let's talk about the real threats of this night: Springtrap and Dreadbear. Dreadbear can be seen on the cameras and will attack either one of your doors. Do note that you can close these doors and they each have their own power supply. But Dreadbear is unaffected by the doors and will break them down if they're in his way. You'll have to watch the cameras to see which door he will be attacking, and when you see him charging towards one, you will have to hide under the desk on the opposite side of the desk to where he is coming from in order to stay out of his line of sight when he enters your office. Eventually, he will leave and you'll be safe to come back out. Springtrap is a goofy little thing, to say the least. Springtrap will climb through any of 3 vents, which you can see on the cameras. 2 vents bring him to your respective office doors, and the 3rd leads to the vent that is directly above you. If you see Springtrap climbing through a door vent, you will have to simply close the door to the side he's going towards. If you see him climbing through a vent that brings him to the top of your office, you'll need to quickly turn off the power to the office and hide under your desk. He'll drop down, and once he can't see you because the lights are off, he will leave. You got all that down? Good. Because we have a whole load more of fuck to talk about next. That being, how do we escape this room? Well, the goal is to open a tiny vent near the ground beneath the TV screen. To start, you'll want to check near the desk to look for a code. It's random every time, and where it appears next to the desk is also random every time, so have fun. Once you get the code, you head over to the TV screen and press Developer Mode, and then type in the code you found in your office. This lets you activate Developer Mode, which opens up a door on the wall revealing a token. Keep in mind, all of the threats are active at this time. Using the token, you pop that puppy into the big arcade machine in your office, which promptly starts up a game. That's right, while defending yourself from an onslaught of fuck, you will also have to play an entirely other game at the same time. The game in question, Save the Children, is really just a bunch of fetch quests. To start, you'll talk to Balloon Boy, who is fishing and says he needs some balloons. By the way, if you couldn't have guessed, all of the items that you'll be collecting in this minigame will be in a random location every time you play, because God hates you. When you bring the balloons back to Balloon Boy, he will give you one of the fish he caught. Then you need to find Old Man Consequences and give him the fish, since the pond he's fishing in doesn't have any. Once you give him the fish, he gives you a lily pad for some fucking reason. Don't question it. We don't have time to question it because I neglected to mention there's a fire spreading through the building as you're escaping, and if you take too long, it will reach your office and kill you. No, I'm not joking. Oh, and again, keep in mind all of the threats I mentioned are still pulverizing your butthole. Once you have the lily pad, you'll take it back to Balloon Boy's pond and use it as a bridge to talk to this fucking robot thing. The robot says its watch is broken, so fuck you, go look for a clock. Once you find the clock and bring it back to the robot, he gives you a penguin, I think is what that thing is. Then you take the penguin over to Lolbit, who gives you a key to unlock a gate, which then leads you to an area where you need to unlock another gate. Yes, this minigame is still happening right now. You spelunk into a cave and talk to some dude who thinks the cave is too dark. You then have to leave the cave and go look for a torch, head all the way back and give the torch to him. He will then give you a key to unlock the other gate, and when you do, you'll exit the area leading to a William Afton cutscene where he goes sicko mode inside of his Springlock suit. And finally, you have to sit there and wait as the game reboots. Again, we're on a time crunch, so your butthole will probably be puckered at this point. Again, threats are still up the wazoo right now, so don't get comfortable. Once the system reboots, you'll get another 5-digit code which you can use to unlock a box on the office desk which reveals a key. You then use the key on a keyhole in the fucking wall for some reason, and at this point, no matter how much time you have left, the game will start to count down from 6. Once the fire reaches your office, the small vent I mentioned at the beginning of this room will finally open, and you'll be free to crawl through it, but not before Springtrap lunges out and grabs your ankle with lust in his eyes and shit. You quickly close the vent and decapitate that bitch, and finally, you complete the room. Holy shit, This room gave me a panic attack and made me shart my pants. Shall we begrudgingly move on to the next room? I think so. Let's keep this gravy train rolling. Do you enjoy having headaches? If you do, this next room is for you. Let's go over it together. I'll hold your hand. This room is made up of 2 hallways, 2 windows, and a bunch of screens, a small elevator, and a life-size 7-foot-tall circus baby animatronic. The goal of this room is to put baby back together, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's first go over the threats this room has to offer. The first threat is Ballora. At times you will hear her music box begin to play. Depending on which side of the room you hear the music coming from, you'll need to go over to that side's hallway and press an electric shock button that will electrify the doorway, shocking Ballora and making her go away. If she gets in, I'm guessing you can figure out what happens next. Ballora is the easiest threat. What else is there? Well, the 2 other threats are Funtime Foxy and Funtime Freddy. Occasionally, you will hear a gurgling sound cue, letting you know something is wrong with either Foxy or Freddy. You will have to run over to the windows and turn on the light to their room to see where they are. Starting with Foxy, if you see him doing the thug shaker on stage, you just press his shock button, and he will go back to how he's supposed to be. Be careful though, if you shock him too many times for no reason, he'll eat your ass like it's an all-you-can-eat buffet. Freddy, on the other hand, is slightly different. His light button doesn't work. Similar to Sister Location, while looking at him, occasionally sparks will fly out of the wires in his room, briefly illuminating. In this small window of time, you'll be able to see where Freddy is located. He will slowly make his way towards the window, and if he gets too close, you guessed it, ass in his mouth, eating it like a cupcake. If you see Freddy getting too close for comfort, you press the tape symbol button, which will make Bon Bon tell Freddy to get the fuck back on stage. And he promptly will. Again, like Foxy, if you push the tape button too many times for no reason, it's time for the bite of 87 on your asshole. Now, back to putting Baby back together to complete the night. You'll notice that Baby is missing both arms and both legs. The first thing you'll need to do is find the Baby chip hidden on the desk somewhere and plug it into the monitor. For some reason, we don't plug it into a computer, but I guess that's not really important now, is it? Once the monitor comes on, we need to call for Baby's different pieces, starting with her arm. The general goal is to get each piece of her delivered and then fuse each of them to her body. Before I get to the fusing part of this process, let me bitch about the delivery process. So obviously, delivering the parts will take time, which isn't what we want because, as usual, we're on a timer here. And because of it, the devs thought it would be oh so funny to have some of the pieces come in broken. And once you put them on and try to fuse them, only then it will tell you it is broken and won't work. And you'll have to take the piece back off, return it, which also takes time, and then order and wait for another piece to be delivered. Why was this necessary, guys? What neuron fired off in your brain that made you think, how can I be Satan today? Anyways, let's talk about fusing, because this is really where the headache of this challenge comes into play. Starting with fusing the head, which for some reason wasn't already fused on, even though the challenge started with her head already being on her body. In order to fuse Baby's body parts back to her torso, you have to complete a small minigame. For her head, it's basically just Simon Says, but with numbers instead of colors. But don't worry, the devs weren't just being nice and thinking about colorblind people. We'll get to that in just a minute. This is by far the easiest and least time-consuming part to fuse, but if you mess up a pattern once, you'll have to completely restart the head fusing process. Let's move on to her arms. The minigame for both arms are the same. The goal of this minigame is to divert power from the left side of the screen to the right. You do this by turning a bunch of 90-degree lines and 180-degree lines in order to make a consistent path from left to right. This sounds easy, but holy fucking shit, knowing you're on a time crunch and dealing with 30 pounds of dick in your ass at the same time definitely doesn't make this a smooth process. Do that for both arms and you're on to legs, the part that makes people like me want to die. In order to fuse the legs, you have to play a color matching game. You will see 2 grids of colors, one grid where you can change the colors and on the other you cannot. You have to copy it. Let's get the big elephant out of the room. If you're colorblind or deficient like I am, this challenge is borderline impossible. I'm lucky enough to not be completely colorblind or I would never have beaten this in my entire life. But not only that, but the grid each time has a missing square, as I'm sure you've noticed, but I'm also sure you've noticed that missing square on your side and the missing square on the side you're supposed to copy are in different locations. That's because they rotated the fucking grid. Talk about a headache, am I right? Maybe I'm just brain dead when it comes to this, but trying to comprehend where each color should go when it's rotated was just not a fun experience at all. I'm not even going to lie to you. But once you finally finish fusing all of Baby's pieces back together, a voice will come over the speakers telling you that all of the animatronics have been deactivated, and that you should exit through the hall on your right. When you do, you'll be led to the sister location elevator. Getting inside, it will slowly descend and then stop. You'll hear something laughing at you for a while, and then the elevator will suddenly drop and you die. The end. Game over. Okay, not really. That's just the transition to the next room. Are you ready? Because I sure as fuck aren't. Why did we agree to come to this place? It makes no sense. How does this place even exist? I could have died a solid 276 times at this point, and we're not even done yet. Someone needs to get this place investigated by the FBI because this is some bullshit. What a waste of a Saturday, am I right? Anyways, let's move on. After laying on the floor for approximately 8 days, we finally wake up from the fallen elevator. We walk past a large window and see the characters we just went up against. After the events of the last room, these little tiny robot things apparently grabbed all of the characters to bring them to the scooping room. And this room is presumably that. While we look across the floor of once familiar corpses, the bane of my existence and the shit in my diaper emerges from the tangled mess of wires. Ennard. This guy is the single reason why it took me so long to make this video. Why it took me a month to beat this game. For most, it certainly wouldn't have taken this long, but for me, oh my lord, this next room will give me flashbacks like Charlie in the Trees for the next 5 decades, and possibly until I reach my grave. Remember the second room? How I mentioned I don't handle being chased very well? This room made me question if I would be able to continue making videos on this channel, or if I would have to jump ships to another genre to make review videos about. I'm not kidding, not even a little bit. I originally intended to beat this game on stream on Dxtr Black, and you can still see my first stream about this game where I gave up on room 2. Well, for the people who tuned into that stream, now I didn't give up. But you should also be grateful that I didn't stream this entire process because I spent tens of hours trying to beat this next room alone. Let me explain why. Room 5 is the epitome of everything I hate in a horror game. Literally all the way down to the last detail. I'll give you a warning right now. This is 100% a me problem and is totally my subjective opinion. So, the only threat in this room is Ennard. Thankfully, there aren't any more, but dear lord, Ennard is all it needs. In terms of where we are story-wise, the elevator crashing was definitely not intended to happen, as upon beginning this room, we don't get a monitor telling us what our goals are. This is cool as a passing thought, but it's not really cool when you stop to think that there is absolutely nothing to explain what it is I need to do to complete the challenge. Upon beginning, we're given a wind-to-power flashlight, and some writing on the wall telling us to light up a solar panel using the flashlight. Now, I'm already going to pause real quick. We're being shown a new mechanic, the wind-up flashlight and solar panel. Cool. Now tell me, do you suspect we need to light up solar panels ever again in this entire challenge? Or the entire game? I'm assuming you said yes, but you'd be completely wrong. No, there's not a single other solar panel in this entire game. So please, tell me, why the fuck were we shown this? Showing us the flashlight makes sense, but there were countless other ways to do it in a much better way than showing us another mechanic that is never used again. This is exactly like the gun in Muzi. But continuing, once we light the solar panel, a large door opens and the challenge truly begins. The overall goal of this challenge is probably the easiest we've seen so far. It's broken up into 5 distinct tasks. Step 1, find a crowbar. Step 2, use the crowbar to force open a drawer near Kyle's desk to get a keycard. Step 3, use Kyle's keycard to open a door, allowing you to turn a generator on that powers computer monitors throughout the room. Step 4, find all 3 computers and input 3 colored fuses into each. The fuses are conveniently placed in boxes right next to the computers, so I appreciate that. And step 5, go back to the generator and turn on the central power, which opens the door, allowing you to climb a ladder and beat the challenge. Sounds simple, right? Well, yes. It is simple, but now I need to talk about the problem. Ennard. Ennard will be patrolling the giant maze of a room the entire time you are performing these tasks. If he sees you, he will begin to chase you. If you get caught, you will lose all progress you've made throughout the challenge. Let me tell you another fact. Unlike every room in this game so far, this room ain't small. No, this room is very fucking large. I hate everything about life. Let me complain about some more stuff. If you are near Ennard, he will hear you and be alerted to you if you do the following. Wind up the flashlight. Makes sense. It's really loud. I can understand that one. If you run. Okay, yeah. I've seen that in other games before. Running is louder than walking is, and walking. That's right. If you move, period, while he is anywhere remotely close to you, he will hear you and start to chase you. What the fuck? And once he starts chasing you, there's only 2 ways to get him to stop. The devs must have been smoking crack and playing Dead by Daylight while they were designing this section, because one of the methods used to escape an Ennard chase is by knocking over wood pallets placed around the room. Quickly break the pallets and continue to chase you if you don't hot bottom out of there at light speed. What's the second way of escaping a chase? I hear you asking? Well, it's by stunning Ennard. How do you stun Ennard? I hear you asking again. That's a great question. I have no fucking idea. I'm not joking. I literally have no fucking clue on earth how, on God's green fuck, you're supposed to stun Ennard. How do I know you can stun him? Well, every time you die, which, judging by the fact it took me borderline a month to beat this challenge, I did quite frequently, you will get a tip on the loading screen. One of these tips tells you that stunning Ennard will give you more time to run away than knocking over a pallet will. So I know you can, but the game doesn't elaborate on how to do that as far as I'm aware. So to this day, I still have no idea how to stun Ennard. I don't know what the hell the game is talking about. I'm stumped. But I'm not even close to done talking about this section of the game. No. I spent a fucking month on this. I can dedicate a few pages of my script to it. You can sit down and listen. I don't care if this video ends up being an hour long. You see, there is a very large, steaming hot, glaring issue with this challenge in specific. Since it's technically not a part of the canonical attraction, there's no tip screen at the beginning. But with no tip screen, there's no telling anyone fuck about fuck. So, as I said, there are 3 computers around the level. Each computer has a box of fuses with differently colored patterns on them right next to them. Each computer requires 3 different fuses. How do you figure out which fuses go where? Well, at first I looked at the colors of the wires going into the computer. I thought, maybe this will give me a hint as to what I'm supposed to do. So I tried to grab the fuses out of the box, but I couldn't. So then I thought, oh, maybe these aren't the fuses, and the actual fuses are randomly placed around the map. So I went to look. I looked, and I looked, and I looked, but I never found any fuses. Eventually, I died for probably the 48,000th time to see a tip appear on my screen. You won't be able to pick up fuses until you turn on the monitors. You didn't think to tell me that? You didn't think that was important information to give out earlier? This is why we need the fucking tip screen, asshole. But fuck me, whatever, sure. So then I started trying to figure out how to turn the monitors on. I tried seeing if I could press the buttons on the monitors, but that didn't work, so then I decided to try and find something else to do. Eventually, I found a note next to a door mentioning that Kyle leaves a keycard in his desk to open said door. Okay, cool. Something to do has just fallen into my lap. Let's go find Kyle's desk. Luckily for me, desks are in the same location every time you play, so we don't have to worry about those being randomized. After looking for a very long time, because again, I don't handle being chased well at all, it's like I fucking lock up and start freezing. I don't know what's wrong with me, I just can't handle it. So, most of the gameplay boiled down to me moving incredibly slowly and taking way more time than I ever needed to complete this challenge. But that's how I personally had to do this if I wanted to play it myself, which is also why the footage you're watching right now isn't mine. Thank you, Kono and Indie Fuel. I eventually find Kyle's desk to then find another note from Kyle mentioning that you need a crowbar to be able to open his drawer with the keycard in it. Fuck me. So, after searching for another 100 years, I find the crowbar on a desk and use it to open the drawer to get the keycard. 400 hours and 2,000 deaths later, I use the keycard to open the door and find the generator inside. Flip the switch and boom, the computers are now on. Now, 5,000 deaths later, I finally get to the point where I can pick up the fuses and match the correct fuses to the ones shown on the screen. After 25,000 deaths, I managed to correctly match the fuses of all 3 computers. Keep in mind, every time I die, I have to completely restart this entire process, all the way back to shining the flashlight at the solar panel. I'm on the verge of death. So finally, I make it back to the generator to turn it on and finish this godforsaken challenge. And I do, expecting the door next to it to open. It doesn't. Come in real close for me. Come in real close. This fucking door needs a separate key that spawns randomly in the level. I'm going to clench my teeth together so hard that they shatter into a fine powder. This right here is what took me the longest. So finally, after 100,000 deaths, I finally get the key to the generator to unlock the door. Come on real close again for me, real close, one more time. Take a guess what's in this room. Is it the exit to let me move on to the next challenge? No, it's just fucking lore. I didn't know this while I was playing. I don't watch videos about the games I play, so I had no idea what was behind this fucking door. I know that's 100% my fault, but dear God, when I tell you how fucking pissed I was when I finally figured out this after hours upon hours of attempts, I was fucking livid. I wish I was recording my attempts so I could show you my reaction. You wanna know what happened after a reasonable crash out in this room? Ennard fucking walked in and killed me, making me start from the beginning again. Once again, I wasn't recording. However, this exact same thing happened to Markiplier, so I'll show you footage of this happening to him instead.
Good. I was about to say, if that guy could have come in here, I would have been so mad. How could you ever get me in here?
The amount of vulgarities that emerged from my lungs at a speed of Mach 50 in that moment was astronomical. Enough to shake trees and shatter the sound barrier. I was fucking livid. But again, I know full well that this entire section, this entire 4 pages of my script is an experience that only I have had. Nobody else on Earth struggled with this challenge as much as I did. Nobody in history has ever spent a calendar month pouring attempts into this section of a game that should only take 20 minutes to complete. I know it's a skill issue, and a very hard skill issue at that, but I could not, under any circumstance, neglect to mention how bullshit of an experience I had. I hope you enjoyed this segment. I eventually found the door to the generator, opened it, and climbed up the ladder into the next challenge of this godforsaken fuck-ass game. From one anxiety attack to another, let's talk about room 6. 6 divided by 2 is 3, and that's how many threats we have to talk about in this level. Awesome segue, Dxtr. Thanks, Dxtr. The first threat we'll talk about is Molten Freddy. Molten Freddy can appear in one of 2 vents occasionally. When you hear or see him in one, you'll have to break your mouse and spam click a lever in the vent to blind him with a light more powerful than the sun. Every time you flash him, he gets slightly pushed back, which leads to you spending an infuriating amount of time spamming the fucking lever to make him go away. The next threat is Scrap Baby. As I'm sure you've noticed, we're locked inside a fenced area. On the outside of the fence is a forest, and occasionally you'll be able to see Baby limping her way out from between the trees towards your fence. When she gets to the fence, she'll hop that shit like an Olympic athlete and fuck your shit up. To stop her, you must go to this random screen in the wall and activate the repel system, which plays the most ear-piercing sound I've ever heard in my entire life. So I totally understand why that makes Baby go away. The final threat is Scrap Trap, who in my opinion is the stupidest looking FNAF character ever designed. You can see Scrap Trap sitting on a chair down a long hallway. You must watch him closely as he will slowly start to move until his head is eventually in an upright position. When it is, you must use the same screen you used for Baby, but instead close the door and use the call system to lure him to you. After waiting what will feel like an eternity, you will be able to hear him stand up from the chair and sprint like Usain Bolt towards the door, and pound on it like he's on speed. Then he will go back to the chair and you can open the door and turn off the call system. By the way, the call system is also the worst sound I've ever heard in my whole life. Thank you for asking. That may not sound all bad, but having to deal with all 3 of these fuckers and do the other bullshit we have to do, I promise it will become difficult to manage. So what is it we have to do? Well, the goal is to remove the chains from a fence gate so that we can open it. Simple enough. To start, you'll notice another screen different from the one used to defend yourself. On it, you'll find the opening minigame from Five Nights at Freddy's Pizzeria Simulator. You will need to complete 4 levels of this game, which in and of itself isn't a hard challenge, but when the music is pretty loud, listening for the other characters can be a problem, especially when Scrap Trap doesn't make any noise until it's already too late. After beating this game, you will unlock a prize that we can't access at this moment, so we'll get back to it in a second. Afterwards, you'll need to look around your surroundings to find 2 pieces of paper with a number ranging from 1 to 3 on them, accompanied by a silhouette of a FNAF character. You can use these pieces of paper to input a code into this little toy thing. I don't know what this thing is, if I'm being honest. You only need 2 pieces of the code because you can just brute force the last one. After getting the code correct, a key will emerge. take that key and run down the hall and unlock a door to the right of Scraptrap. This is personally where I think this level gets specifically hard, since we'll be spending most of our time in here now, meaning we won't be able to hear Scraptrap and Molten Freddy. So if you forget to check on them, it's basically GG's. Inside this new room, we can finally obtain the prize we got from beating the Pizzeria Simulator minigame, a Faz coin. You'll notice a projector that's projecting a cut-up piece of paper on the wall. If you pull a lever on the same wall, this tiny little Freddy I can't remember the name of will try to read the projection. But he obviously won't be able to do so because it's only a small piece of a paper, you fucking idiot. Using the Faz coin, you can go back into Scraptrap's room and insert it into Rockstar Freddy's stomach, and then press 3 buttons on his body in an order listed on a piece of paper. This makes sense, by the way. This will cause his mouth to open, revealing the other pieces of paper you need. Slap those bitches on the projector and put them together like a puzzle, which, side note, is a pain in the ass for no reason. The controls are super janky. Slap the lever with your big Coke can penis, and have bitch Freddy read it. When he does, a door next to Rockstar Freddy will open with some bolt cutters inside. You can use these bolt cutters to cut the chains off of the fence and escape this level. This level might not seem as difficult as some of the other ones have, and while none of these levels are particularly difficult in terms of what you literally have to do, all of the levels, and this one specifically, build up so much stress and really test your nerve control. After jumping down some weird looking cellar door, we enter a new room with a computer in it. It shows an error that it detected human movement. Obviously, we just entered the room, of course. While reading through the files on the computer that detail a plan to revive someone through our corpse. Another human detection error shows up on screen. Knowing that we haven't moved, we turn around and get our shit smacked up by Vanny and get knocked out. Fun fact, you can actually spot Vanny spying on you in almost every other level in the game if you're looking closely enough. Just something cool I thought I'd bring up. We wake up to Vanny dragging us into an unknown room. And rather than me explaining what happens next, I'd rather just show you. Afterwards, we walk through what appears to be memories of the Bite of 87 events, and the game comes to a close. So, from a lore perspective, we were lured to this attraction by Vanny. You may remember at the beginning of the game we got a text from a friend telling us how cool this attraction is, and in the secret lore room, which turns out to be Vanny's secret room, she has a whiteboard full of steps on how to use remnants. One of the steps involves sending a message to someone, seemingly to lure them in, and what do you know, we got a message to come here. Also in that secret room is a tape that can be watched going over how to extract remnant from people. So what the goal seemingly was, using my enormous brain of theorization, the plan was to lure us to the attraction, extract remnant from us in order to give power to William Afton, which is what we are seeing happen in the final cutscene. Case closed. I'm a genius. But as far as I'm aware, that's all the glitched attraction has to offer. Although this game put me through 4 brain aneurysms and a heart attack, I still think it is one of the most impressive FNAF fan games ever made.
I've covered a lot of games made by the developers in the Five Nights at Freddy's Fanverse initiative. I've covered the fantastic Joy of Creation made by Nixon, the famous Five Nights at Candy's by Emil Mako, and I've covered the gorgeous One Night at Flumpty's by Groomer Jonachrome. For the most part, I've enjoyed all of these games, but there is still one game in the initiative I have yet to cover, Pop Goes by Kane Carter. Another incredibly well-known FNAF fan game with a lot of people having a sweet spot for it. Today, I'm here to find out why. Stick around because I've got a lot to say about it. As mentioned, Pop Goes was created by Kane Carter and was released to the public on June 26, 2016. Immediately, it got a lot of recognition, with FNAF fan games definitely being popular at the time, but it was still new to find a game that remotely matched the quality of the originals. And Pop Goes 100% did. The game shares lore in continuity to the official Five Nights at Freddy's games. However, it does retcon everything FNAF 4 onwards, meaning in order to understand the lore, we have to think only about FNAF 1 through 3. With that key detail out of the way, let's get all around the cobbler's bench and right into Pop Goes. A lot of FNAF fan games like to have an opening cutscene, but not Pop Goes. This game will already get you on your toes by not even showing you the standard newspaper, just jumping right into night 1, wiping its balls all over my forehead. Fantastic. Something you'll notice immediately is the way that Pop Goes handles the office. It's honestly probably the coolest office I've ever seen come out of a FNAF game. It actually comes out of this game harder than you gooners come out of the closet. While in the office, which is hard to even call an office honestly, you will be able to look 360 degrees all around you, with 4 different directions to look in, all serving a different purpose. Although I will admit one of them doesn't really have any reason for existing, but we'll get into that later. Starting directly in front of us, we have our cameras, which are controlled by our phone, and some colorful buttons. Since this is where we'll be spending most of our time, I'll talk about this a bit later. Turning to our left, we can actually see one of the animatronics, and it's at this moment it becomes apparent that we are not in an office, but are rather just in a giant-ass room in the restaurant. This character's name is Blake the Badger, but he's harmless on this night, so as I've already said multiple times, we'll talk about him later. Turn left again to look behind us, and we'll be able to see the actual fucking stage where all the characters are. Holy shit, my butthole just puckered and my penis just retracted up inside of my body. We are literally constantly next to almost every animatronic in the entire game. You might think that'll make just about everything in this game useless, since they're already pretty much free to grab up on us, but as you'll learn throughout this video, these guys have a very, how should I say this, retarded thought process. Finally, turning once more to the left, we can see a window to the parking lot, with a bird character standing outside. We'll talk about what he does later, but for right now, I want to talk about what actual purpose this window serves. On the bottom of the screen, you will see a panic meter. Naturally, throughout the night, it will rise, and looking at animatronics will cause this panic meter to rise faster. In order to make it decrease, you'll need to look to the right at the window. I guess looking outside makes you remember how much you enjoy touching grass. Just kidding. Being outside is scary, and it's summer right now, so it's really fucking hot. I'd rather die than go out there. Fun fact, as I'm writing this script, I'm not wearing a shirt because of how blazing hot it is, even though it's only 9:45 p.m. What kind of bullshit is this? Why is it so goddamn hot where I live? This shit is ass. Oh, and by the way, as I'm recording this, it's currently 11:48 p.m. and it's somehow gotten even hotter. Also, by the way, put your dick back in your pants. You're not going to see me shirtless. And stop imagining it too. I already know how weird you fucking freaks are. Yes, I read the comments. Behave. Anyways, if your panic meter increases all the way, you'll be unable to do literally anything. That includes turning to look in any direction, and Pop Goes will very quickly dig in your butt. Want to hear a really cool fact about this? Turns out I'm actually the most retarded person on the face of the planet Earth. The phone guy explicitly describes that if we're feeling panicked to look outside. I swear to you, I had no fucking idea that the window to our right was a window to the outside. I knew it was a window, but for some reason I couldn't tell that it was to the outside of the building. I thought it was just another room inside the building, and I think the reason I thought that was because the animatronic could be seen through it, and I didn't think that they'd place an animatronic outside. But that still doesn't make sense, because what I thought you had to do was look at camera 10, which is a camera out in the parking lot. While this does seem to decrease your panic very slowly, I thought it was going to be impossible to beat this game because of how slowly it dropped. Again, keep in mind, I can see the crow animatronic in this camera, and it took borderline until night 3 for me to notice that yes, that window is outside, and by looking out of it, my panic will decrease a fuck ton faster. Looks like the panic meter don't exactly work very well though, bro. Like, look, I keep fucking jumping back up and shit. What am I supposed to do with this panic meter, bro? It like doesn't go down consistently at all. Dude, this is bullshit. What the fuck are you supposed to do? That's not possible. What the hell is that bullshit? What? What's the point of turning except to see? Like, what's the point of this? Like this area. Wait, that's the... Oh, I'm retarded. This is the fucking parking lot. He means literally... Guys, I'm actually fucking retarded. Holy shit, guys. I'm a fucking idiot. Oh my god, that has to be actually the fucking stupidest thing I've ever done in my whole life. So, with that out of the way, let's talk about our camera system. Looking at it at a first glance may seem a bit intimidating, but this game actually does a fantastic job at slowly introducing new mechanics. It's actually probably better at this than any other FNAF game I've ever played before. Let's just focus on what needs to be focused on during night 1 and ignore everything else until it becomes relevant. Obviously, you can switch through the cameras like any FNAF game, and the cameras in this game use no power. In fact, this game doesn't even have power to begin with, which I think is something we can all appreciate. The only other thing on the cameras we need to worry about is the room shutdown button. This button does exactly what you think it does, temporarily shuts down the power to a specific room. You'll notice you can only use this button on cameras that have this weird device on them, and if you can't tell what this is, it's a 3D printer. Why are there 3D printers here? Well, canonically, I'm pretty sure it's because the kids that come to the restaurant can print out their own animatronics or something like that. I don't really know. I was more focused on the phone guy talking about his boring ass life. I wasn't really paying attention to the actual story of the game very much. Where these 3D printers come into play during gameplay is when we talk about our boy, Pop Goes the Weasel. Yes, we are actually introducing the main character of the game on night 1, something quite a few FNAF games don't like to do until later nights. Pop Goes will leave his stage and head towards any room with a 3D printer, which, by the way, you can actually turn around and watch him leave via walking through the very room you're sitting in. Remember how I said the characters in this game make some pretty retarded decisions? Yeah, this is one of them. If Pop Goes' goal is to kill me, why doesn't he just do it? He's literally directly behind me. It would not be hard at all. In fact, the only time he does kill you is when your panic meter gets too high. So, if he doesn't kill you himself, how is he a threat? Great question, and one I'm going to answer because, no shit, it'd be a pretty shitty review if I didn't explain anything. Once Pop Goes enters a room with a 3D printer, he will attempt to print out a piece of a character called the Black Rabbit. It's literally just Shadow Bonnie from Five Nights at Freddy's 2. In order to stop him, you will have to shut down the room he's in before he prints it. This will make the printer turn off and will make him leave to go find another one. After a few seconds, the power to the room will automatically come back on, so you don't have to worry about losing sight of the room forever. Pop Goes is completely relentless. The moment you shut down one room, it won't be long until he attacks another, which actually leads to a constant pressure gameplay loop. Typically something I would find unfun, but again, this game actually does it incredibly well, and I think it has everything to do with how well it introduces new mechanics. But back to Pop Goes. If you don't shut down the room fast enough, he will print out a piece of the Black Rabbit and walk back to the office. If you turn around, you can actually catch him placing the piece he printed out on the table behind you. If he prints out every piece, the Black Rabbit will become active and immediately kill you. I personally never died to the Black Rabbit, which goes to show either how easy this game is or how much fun I had playing it that I was able to find a rhythm. I should briefly mention how the phone calls in this game work, since they're also quite a bit different from most I've seen. Unfortunately, the phone guy is British. I know that should be given a warning in and of itself, but let's try to move past that tragedy. After getting the typical phone guy spiel, you're given 3 options for things to ask him, and whatever you choose will actually give you some branching dialogue, giving a small bit of replayability to each night. One option usually elaborates on a mechanic, another usually does some lore dumping, and the final is typically just some silly fun. Small details, I'm telling you. They're what make me appreciate games the most. But after beating night 1 in typical FNAF game fashion, we're tossed into a post-night 8-bit minigame to do some lore dumping. Except this game actually does it a little different than other games do. Each minigame takes place in the same area. This weird red maze-ass area. I have no idea what the floor is supposed to be made of, but let's ignore that. In this minigame, we play as Stone the Crow. This is the same character that stands outside of your window in the parking lot, by the way. Each character you play as in this minigame will have a different path you need to follow, and a different item you can interact with. This is the route you need to take as Stone. Following this path will lead you to a balloon boy chained up. Once you see him, the minigame ends. However, if you want to get one of the special endings in this game, there is something you need to do first. In each minigame, you will be able to find a secret character named Simon. Once you find him, you will be transformed into what I'm going to call a purified version of the character. Once purified, if you head over to the balloon boy, instead of the game just ending, you'll actually be able to free him from his shackles. This will happen in every minigame, just with different paths and characters. Additionally, if you interact with Balloon Boy's hat before you reach his room, a short cutscene will play. And by cutscene, I mean a single fucking drawing. But hey, that's cool, I suppose. As far as I'm aware, looking at these drawings doesn't aid in getting you a special ending, just some fun extra lore to find. Night 2 introduces 2 new characters, except they both do the exact same thing at the exact same time in the exact same way, so they're basically only one character. Those characters being Saffron and Sarah the Squirrels, aka this game's gooning material. Get your Jergens out, or just use your hand if you have foreskin because your parents don't love you. Saffron and Sarah, like Popgoes, can be seen on stage directly behind you. They too would prefer to do something incredibly complicated and retarded rather than just blow your back out from behind like any normal attacker would do in this situation. They introduce a new mechanic, your vents. As I'm sure you could guess from me saying that, these two travel through your vents in an attempt to drop down on you and sit on your face, which is exactly why I never stopped them. Anyways, you can toggle your vent camera on a majority of cameras around the building. Think of the map as a big roundabout these two have to go around. They start in camera 8, then go to 6, then 3, then 1, then 2, then 5, then 7, and finally arrive at your office. So you have plenty of time to stop them. But be warned, once they travel into a new vent, they will never go back under any circumstance. So really make sure you stay on top of them. Personally, I'm into femdoms, so I prefer to be on the bottom of them. But that's really not important. When you spot them in your vents, you must turn on your vent heater, which will cause lasers of all things to shoot down in the vent, blocking their path. The phone guy tells you that these lasers will stay on for 1 minute, except this game has a crazy twist, and the twist is that he fucking lied. The lasers actually only stay on for 9 seconds. Not 10, 9. Fuck me, I didn't want to see a nice round number anyways. Don't fret, you don't actually have to keep track and count in your head, as on your cameras a heat symbol will appear whenever your lasers are active, meaning that as long as you know how to use your eyes, you'll always be able to tell whether or not your lasers are on without constantly having to toggle vent to check. Kane could have easily not put this heat symbol in the game, and without changing any mechanics, it would have made it a fuckload more difficult. But Kane cares about video game balancing, and I really respect him for that. If the squirrels get all the way through the vent, they will appear in the vent directly above your head. If you look up, you'll be able to see them peeking down at you. Much like Popgoes, these girls actually never attack you. Instead, what they do is snatch up your phone like a frat boy snatches up Easy Cooter. Obviously, without your phone, you won't be able to switch cameras, meaning Popgoes will be free to build up the black rabbit and you'll be done for. However, it's much more likely that your rapidly climbing panic meter will get you killed first. Anyways, on to the post-night minigame. This time we play as Saffron and we're tasked with finding Toy Freddy. Very similar to last night, we can find Simon, become purified, and free Toy Freddy from his shackles. Oh yeah, and additionally can view another picture with some loud-ass music playing as well. Lore or something! Also, by the way, here's the path you need to take. Night 3 introduces one new threat, Blake the Badger. However, I first want to talk about a threat I haven't mentioned thus far, Stone the Crow. He actually has 2 different attacks, one that becomes active early in the game and one that doesn't become active until a later night. Both of his attacks are actually the most threatening and annoying out of any character in the entire game. Crazy how one character can have multiple ass-erupting problems that I hate. His early attack has him just be an annoying prick. He will occasionally appear on your cameras and block your entire view. This prevents you from seeing Popgoes, which is obviously not great. But if that wasn't enough, when you look at him, your panic meter actually increases way faster than normal. And want to know the coolest part? The higher your panic, the more commonly he appears on your cameras. That's a fucking wombo combo if I've ever seen one before, holy shit. Leave my poor anus alone, it's had enough. In order to make him stop appearing on the cameras, you obviously have to lower your panic. Ironically, by staring at him out in the parking lot. Let's just pretend like that makes sense. Anyways, now I can talk about Blake the Badger, a character who is literally just fun. As I mentioned previously, Blake can be seen directly to your left. This, by the way, is the direction that is pretty much useless to look in. Along with seeing Blake, you can also see the door to the server room in this direction. If you look this way long enough, you'll see Blake walk into this server room. You can view the server room on your cameras where you can see Blake present. This camera is one of the reasons why watching him move real time doesn't matter, because you'll be checking the cameras consistently anyways. Blake has you play Simon Says. Hey, Simon! Like the guy in the minigames. I wonder if that's a coincidence. Once Blake is in the server room, he will set the monitor inside to a certain color. On your desk, you will see 5 different buttons, each with a differently colored circle on them. What you need to do is click the circle that's the same color as the monitor in the server room, and then press the Blake button next to your monitor to call him over so we can check if you chose correctly. When you call him, by the way, he will literally come right up to you. If you turn to the left, you will see him staring right at you, which kind of startled me the first time I saw it. If you got the colors right, he won't attack you and will go back to minding his own business. Get it wrong and you're obviously fucked. Want to hear another reason why looking to the left is not worth it? Well, if Blake happens to be there because he's checking on your color, if you look at him, your panic meter will increase drastically. So there is literally never a good reason to look to your left, ever, so just don't. Night 3's post-night minigame has you play as Sarah. I'm sure you can already guess what you need to do. Find Simon, become fearified, and find my wife Toy Chica and free her from her shackles, and then let her use those shackles on me so she can have her way with me. But let's leave Chica and I alone while you guys move on to Night 4. Oh yeah, and here's the path. Night 4's new threat is Stone the Crow. While yes, I've already established his camera blocking threat, that's not the only threat he has, as I've already mentioned. This is the night where his much more annoying problem arises. If you are to look out of the window for too long, Stone will turn his head towards you and, I'm not joking, make the most ear-piercing, skull-fucking degrading screech I've ever heard in my entire life. I'm not lying. It's actually the loudest noise in the whole game, and it scared the fuck out of me every single time I heard it. Oh, for fuck. My goddamn ears, bro. When he turns his head at you, your panic meter will increase faster than anything else that causes it to increase. Like, I'm talking fast as fuck. Usain Bolt type shit. Obviously, turning away will cause him to stop staring, and you'll be able to look at him again to decrease your panic that he so rudely increased. This does bring up an interesting dilemma and will force you to come up with a new strategy when playing. You know that looking out the window for too long will cause him to look at you, but you also need to keep your panic empty so he doesn't appear on the cameras. So you need to figure out a proper way to both deal with Popgoes, the squirrels, and Blake, while also looking out of the window frequently enough to not cause Stone to look at you, while also keeping your panic meter completely empty so he doesn't appear on the cameras. Because once your pattern breaks, it will be very difficult and stressful to get yourself back on track. Night 4's post-night minigame has you play as Blake. Here's the path you have to follow to get to Mangle, but remember to find Simon and purify yourself first. I'll never understand the attraction some people have to Mangle. I don't even see how sex with her would be fun. She's a fucked up mess of wires. Even if you could figure out how to get it done, you'd borderline have to be a contortionist in order to not get yourself injured while doing the deed. Anyways, on to Night 5. Night 5 doesn't introduce any new threat, just being a harder version of Night 4, so I'll use this time to talk about Simon and how he appears in the nights. That's right, Simon himself does appear in each night, however, I never saw him throughout my playthrough, which you can find on my second channel, Dxtr Black, and that's because of how specific finding him is. Each night he will appear in a certain room at a certain time, only for a few seconds, which is why I never saw him. When you find him, you will need to click on one of your Simon Says buttons that corresponds to the color of his eyes. When you do, he will say something to you. I guess it being Simon Says wasn't a coincidence after all. On Night 1, he will appear in the arcade's vent camera at the 526th second of the night. That's right, it's actually that specific. His eye color will be red and he will say the following.
Simon Says.
On Night 2, he'll appear in the birthday room camera at the 116th second. His eyes will be pink and he'll say the following.
Keep vomiting me. I'll tell you everything.
On night 3, he'll appear in the parking lot camera on the 472nd second. His eyes will be blue and he'll say this.
Oh, brother. He must be so fond of him.
On night 4, he'll appear in the staff room at the 342nd second of the night. His eyes will be yellow and he'll say the following.
Do you think you know who he is? The truth is behind this door.
And in night 5, he'll appear in the hallway camera at the 273rd second of the night. His eyes will be green and he will say this.
He doesn't want to remember. We can help him tomorrow.
Overall, a pretty cool bit of extra lore in a very fun and interactive way. Again, I'm in love with little details like this. Also, here's another fun fact. If you stare at Simon's screen in the extras menu for too long, your game will crash, so that's pretty cool. Anyways, onto the post-night minigame. Here you play as Pop Goes. Here's the path you have to take to find the worst FNAF character ever designed, Toy Bonnie. And as always, don't forget to find Simon and purify yourself. God, I fucking hate Toy Bonnie. He's the main reason why Five Nights at Freddy's 2 sucks as much dick and balls as it does. I know people have found a way to make 1020 mode not random, but fuck you. He's still a bag of dicks. Night 6 once again adds no new threats, just being the hardest non-custom night in the entire game, really amping up the game's difficulty. I want to talk about two things during this night. This game does probably the best job I've seen at making a challenging experience without being frustrating, janky, or awkward. This night is definitely hard, requiring you to be precise with your mouse, quick with your thinking, and requiring a lot of nerve control throughout. But never throughout my playthrough did I feel like the game was unfair or that there was too much RNG involved. This game is a perfect balance of challenging and engaging. I've truly never seen another FNAF game pull it off as well as this game has. Additionally, Simon can be found on this night as well. I didn't talk about it last night because the way you find him in this night is without a doubt one of the coolest things in the whole game. He'll appear in the station on the 273rd second of the night. You might be wondering what the station is, and the station is literally the room you are sitting in. Simon will appear on the table directly behind you. He leans in so close you can feel his breath on the nape of your neck. It might turn some people on, but it personally makes me feel a bit uncomfortable. Anyways, his eyes will be white and he'll say the following.
He wants to save her, and I will make his wish come true. Thank you, Strix.
If you've done everything correctly in the post-night minigame so far, you'll be put into the 6th night post-night minigame where you play as the Black Rabbit. Finding Simon, you'll realize he looks different, appearing to be glitching as the purple guy, and upon purifying, you seem to become Spring Bonnie, implying that either Simon has been William Afton the whole time, or that Pop Goes has been trying to construct William Afton the whole time. Continuing forward, you find a man and kill him. This man being Fritz, or Jeremy Fitzgerald, the phone guy who's been talking to us throughout the nights. Hold the fuck up. The phone guy has been Jeremy Fitzgerald, aka the person we play as in Five Nights at Freddy's 2? Again, keep in mind that anything that happens in the official FNAF games from the 4th game and beyond are not canon in Pop Goes. Throughout the game, Fritz talks about an accident he had at Freddy's, never going into specific detail as to what it was. I'm going to take a guess he was either the Bite of 87 victim or the Bite of 83 victim, since he also mentioned that he used to work for Freddy's. You might think that it can't be the Bite of 87 because we already know that that was a child, and Fritz mentions that the accident happened when he was a teenager. But again, remember that we learned it was a child in Five Nights at Freddy's 4, which isn't canon to this game, so it could be up in the air. If you have a better idea, or you know I'm wrong as fuck, let me know in the comments. I love reading your guys' corrections. During the last night of this game, Fritz asks us a question. Would we forgive someone who did something terrible, given that we've known the person for a long time? Then, instead of getting to ask him a question at the end of the call like every other night, we're instead only given the option of selecting yes or no, with no response given after our answer. I'm going to assume that this hypothetical question is about William Afton after he did what he did to the children. Fritz mentions earlier in the call that he feels like William probably had a good reason to do what he did. Fritz knew William and didn't want to believe he killed the kids with no good reason. I think he asks us that question in an attempt to make himself not feel so alone in wanting to forgive him. After killing Fritz in the final minigame, one last cutscene plays out. We're back in our office and we watch as Simon approaches us and stares deep into our eyes, making us fall in love. No, I'm kidding. I mean, he does stare at us, but I highly doubt it's for that reason. And with that, we get the grave ending. As far as I'm aware, this game's version of a true ending. And that's where Pop Goes comes to a close. Overall, I actually love this game. Originally going into it, I was nervous that this video was going to be another hit piece like Jolly, but I was actually very pleasantly surprised when it turned out to be a very enjoyable experience. I truly think that this game has the best difficulty balancing of any FNAF game I've ever played. Each mechanic feels solid and has great synergy with every other mechanic, without having the game feel unfair and overwhelming while still providing a satisfying challenge. The story isn't too convoluted, and there's not a lot of garbage hoops to jump through to be able to experience it, which for someone like me, who dreads learning the lore in games, can really appreciate. Because of all of these reasons, I'm placing Pop Goes in my top 10 favorite FNAF games of all time. I honestly really enjoyed my time with this game, and I highly recommend all of you give it a try. IP crossovers is something that happens quite often in different forms of media, and Five Nights at Freddy's is no exception. We've seen classics such as Five Nights at Sonic's and Five Nights at Wario's. However, I'm sure you can think of many other crossovers this massive genre has. I've recently learned about a FNAF game that has a crossover with another massive horror piece of media, and I'm very excited to share with you my experience with said game today. This game is very cool and incredibly difficult, so strap in and join me today as we dive into the world of SCP: The Endurance. When I first saw this game, I was really concerned that it was going to lean more into being a game like SCP Containment Breach instead of Five Nights at Freddy's. But luckily for me, I'm not going to have to bust through randomly generated rooms. Maybe in another video, I'll be forced to do that. But for now, yes, this game does follow the typical Five Nights at Freddy's formula. In SCP: The Endurance, we play as a Class D personnel. For those of you unfamiliar with SCP, Class D personnel are the lowest level of individuals of the SCP Foundation, consisting mostly of death row inmates. They usually live in solitary confinement cells and are often tasked with doing very dangerous things that could easily get them killed. And of course, this game has us do just that. The game opens to an infomercial designed for these Class D personnel, offering all of them the chance for some major benefits if they take part in the Endurance program, which by the way is slang for kill yourself. We've all seen situations like this before in media, and it's honestly one of my favorite story structures, so I was pretty excited when I first saw this. The task we have to complete, of course, is surviving 6 nights while watching over a section of the facility, while 8 monsters try and mush up your insides and make a nice little inside soup. We obviously don't want that to happen, so what tools do we have at our disposal to prevent such a catastrophe from happening? Well, let's start with stuff you'll always be using that isn't character specific. To your right, you have a door that can be closed. Pretty standard FNAF stuff. The longer the door is closed, the more power it will consume. In front of you, there is a hallway that you can flash, exactly like FNAF 2, except this time around, when something is in the hallway, the most ear-grating PTSD-inducing sound of all time doesn't play. Of course, there's the camera system, which does something that makes my dick hurt when I see it. That being that the camera has multiple levels for you to look at. There's nothing wrong with this mechanic, by the way, just thought I'd mention how it makes me want to shit out my own organs. And finally, you can turn off the power to both your cameras and the entire building. The reasons for doing both of these things will become important later, so for now, just don't worry about it. Actually, that's a lie. Nothing actually happens on night 1 as it's just introductory, so I actually want to take this time to talk about the fucked up shit that is this game's power supply. This game drains power so fast, it isn't even funny. This is to encourage you to shut off essential systems to save on that power, because if you don't, there is literally zero chance you will survive the later nights. Inside of the cameras, you have the ability to turn off your ventilation. This game takes place underground, so if it's off for too long, you'll just suffocate and die. But it will make your power drain slightly slower, and in a game where you'll be completing each night with single-digit power integers, that is huge. Obviously, that's also where shutting off your cameras comes into play, as that will also save some power for you. However, booting up the cameras does take about 3 seconds, and with how brutal this game gets with character speed on later nights, I promise you that 3 seconds is a lot of time to wait. However, shutting off the cameras will also be essential to actually surviving the nights in this game. Now is the time I should mention how you need to start each night, as it's not as simple as just listening to the phone call. Each night you will have to boot up the computer for the first time by using a password. This password is randomly generated each time you start up a night. So if you die on night 4, for example, when you retry night 4, the password will change yet again. Each night starts with you booting up the PC and typing in the password. I highly recommend that you Control A, Control C, and Control V the password at the start of the night as well, because if either you or something else shuts off the power to the facility and you have to turn it back on, you will have to re-enter this password. So being able to copy and paste it is obviously a big time saver. We also have access to an SCP library where we can learn and read about the SCPs that we'll be encountering. Most of these entries are mainly for lore reasons, and in all honesty, I don't have a lot of interest in diving into the behaviors of each character, as it's literally pretty much just a wiki page. So I probably won't be doing that much in this video. I'm imagining most of you who are watching my channel frequently also probably know at least a little bit about SCPs anyways. Again, as I said, night 1 doesn't actually have any threats. You just get taught by the phone guy, Ronald, how to do everything you need to do, and that's about it. But now we can hop into night 2. And holy shit, this game goes from 0 to 80 really fucking fast. But hold up guys, I want to take a little break here to tell you that this video is sponsored by me. For those of you who didn't know, I have channel memberships. I would never ask anyone to do this as I don't even have any interesting perks attached, but if you really enjoy what I do and would like to support me a little bit extra, that's a great way to do it. Also, if you'd like to actually get something for your money in return, I have a merch store with some designs I commissioned from a fan, the same fan who actually drew these new character PNGs. So if you'd like to have my silly little demon character on your clothes, then that's a great place to go do that. And hey, if enough people end up liking that stuff, I will 100% get some more created in the future, and maybe even commission some more fan artists for some uniqueness in art styles. You can find the link to that in the description of this video. Sorry for the interruption, let's talk about the bullshit that this game has to offer. Night 2 introduces 5 characters. That is over half the fucking roster on Night 2. I'm going to start with the easiest characters and work my way to the hardest. Strap in because this is going to get interesting. By far, the easiest character to deal with in my opinion is SCP-860-2, who I will just be referring to as SCP-860. 860 is the only character that uses your door. It will appear outside of the door far away in the trees. Which, by the way, side note, I don't really know why there are trees outside of this door. We are underground, but whatever. Throughout the night, it will approach your door until it is right up next to it. When it is, all you have to do is close the door and wait to hear it run away. If this door is closed for too long, the power to the building will be shut off and you will have to completely reboot, re-entering the password to the computer and all. I believe this is the easiest character simply because of how infrequently he attacks in comparison to the other characters. You may see him 5 or 6 times a night, which is a godsend compared to some of the other assholes we'll be talking about in a bit. The next easiest character in my opinion is SCP-066. 066 is just a giant pile of meat with some eyeballs. 066 by itself will not actually be able to end your runs. Instead, it cosplays as Satan. It will attack from the vent on your ceiling. At random times, you may see the vent on your ceiling open up. When you see this, you will have to simply click the vent to close it, and that's all. If you leave it open for too long, 066 will drop into your office and stay there for the rest of the night. While there, it will slowly increase the AI values of all of the other characters, which, by the way, has the chance to increase their AI values over the max 20, which, yes, will still make them harder. It also has the random chance to play sounds at 140 decibels, so just like, really don't let him into your office. You may be wondering why I've chosen to call 066 more difficult than 860, despite the fact that all you have to do is mindlessly click when you hear a noise. Well, that's because 066 is probably the fastest character in the entire game. On later nights, you will have less than 2 seconds to react and close the vent. And of course, it itself doesn't kill you. The ramping AI of the other characters probably will. Of course, that's unless you're Frogger and beat the 820 mode with 066 in the office the entire night. That guy's a madman. Next, we'll talk about SCP-096, arguably one of the most popular SCPs of all time. SCP-096 has the chance to spawn literally anywhere in the entire building, whether that be on any of the cameras or even directly in your office. Wherever it happens to be, all you have to do is stop looking at it. If it's in your office, flip up and down the camera quickly. If it's in the camera, either switch cameras or pull the camera down. While yes, 096 is not a problem by itself, it's in combination with how hectic and stressful the rest of the game gets, which is the reason I think 096 is as annoying and difficult as it is. SCP-106 is the next degenerate I'd like to talk about. This is the pocket dimension asshole, by the way, if you were curious. Occasionally, you will both hear and see 106 in your office. When you do, you'll have to put on the mask. Oh yeah, you have a mask, by the way. I know I forgot to mention that. I just wanted to keep you on your toes. And I totally didn't just forget it existed until I started talking about 106. So shut up. If you don't put the mask on fast enough, it appears one of two things could happen, I think. Maybe it's every time, but I've seen this not happen to some people on deaths to 106 multiple times. When you become caught by 106, it has a chance to teleport you to a pocket dimension. We're in the fucking guy that we're in the guy that does fucking genjutsu, aren't we? Oh my. What the fuck? What? Yo! This is sick as fuck. Oh, he dead. Oh, he dead. Where the game is put into a 3D environment where you have to complete some parkour across some rocks to escape. If you do manage to escape, then congrats, you get to continue the night. But of course, chances are you'll have spent too long in the pocket dimension that you'll probably die upon coming back. This pocket dimension also has some interesting secrets by itself, but I'll be talking about that a bit later in the video. Sitting there doing nothing in the mask is obviously not something you're going to want to be doing while being ass-pounded by 7 other characters. So that puts 106 pretty high up on the difficulty chart in my eyes. SCP-173 is by far the most grueling and annoying character in this entire game. He acts as this game's main reason for using the cameras, which also really sucks because in most cases you'd prefer to have your cameras off just because of how horrifically quickly the power drains. 173 will slowly move throughout the building until it gets to your vent. You may notice to your left a giant vent is open on the wall. Yeah, if he gets there, you're dead. So, how do you stop him? Well, by staring at him on the cameras, of course. 173 has this super awesome and totally not penis-tearing attribute where it will never move backwards and only forwards. So you really have to make sure you have your eyes on this thing the entire night. However, I should mention that once 173 gets to your office, that it's not an immediate game over. Oh, hey, I'm not blinking. I am not blinking and I'm looking right at you. Looking right at you. There's actually 2 phases it will have to get through before it can slither inside of you like one of those parasites that will swim up your urethra if you piss in a gross lake. I don't know. In true 173 fashion, if you're looking at him, he won't move. But if you open the cameras, turn to the side to deal with 860 and the door, or anything else that blocks your view of 173, it will move through its phases before blowing up your anus. Again, 173 is easily the most difficult character throughout this entire game, only being rivaled by one other asshole who we'll talk about later. But for now, if you can deal with all of that bullshit combined, you will successfully beat Night 2. Yeah? Did you forget we were only talking about Night 2? Yeah, there's still 4 more of these, so strap in. Night 3 introduces one new threat. Nah, I'm just fucking with you. It introduces the remaining 3 because fuck you. Those characters being SCP-049, SCP-1048, and SCP-079. Only one of these characters is actually a big issue, so let's talk about the less annoying 2 first. Let's start with what I feel is the easiest to deal with of these 3, SCP-1048. It's just a teddy bear. But a teddy bear that can move, to be fair. It takes advantage of your hallway. Appearing in it throughout the night, it will try to enter your office and murder the shit out of you. All you have to do is keep your flashlight on him to push him backwards. Not hard at all, just another power waster of a character. SCP-049 is the Plague Doctor, and I honestly wish I had the plague while playing this game so that I had a good excuse to just kill myself rather than continuing. 049 makes use of the 2 lockable doors on the bottom layer of the cameras. You can only lock one of these doors at a time, And thankfully, doing so doesn't waste any power, and they don't unlock if the PC is shut off. If you see 049 at either door, simply lock it and it'll be no problem. The actual difficulty of 049 just comes in the likelihood that you will forget he even exists, and only remember once you find him in your office. And finally, the second most difficult character in SCP The Endurance is SCP-079. This guy is just a little quirky fella, really. He's just a bored little guy that really wants to play tic-tac-toe with you. What is this? What is that? Yes, I'm serious. There is a special panel to the left of your office. Throughout the night, 079 will play games of tic-tac-toe with you. Now, you may be a little inclined to completely pummel this stupid fucking computer's ass while playing this game with it. But I would actually advise against that, as if you lose too many games or win too many games against it, it'll get pissed off and start fucking with your lights and doors, which will probably end up leading to a death. So it's actually the best practice to just constantly draw against 079 every time you play. And there you have it. That is every single character in SCP The Endurance and how they work, all introduced on the third night. And it's only going to continue to get more and more soul-sucking as your playthrough goes on. I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys. I couldn't complete Night 5. I put in a lot of attempts, but as I've mentioned multiple times in the past, I'm very bad at FNAF games, and I just couldn't beat it. I'm sure if I continued to pour in attempts that eventually I would complete it, as I did get to 5 AM a decent handful of times. I still have no desires to spend hours trying. I'd much prefer to just talk about it. After completing Night 5, we get the special meal we were mentioned to get at the beginning of the game in the infomercial. But guess what? We're still depressed because we're still in solitary confinement, and I'm about to tear my hair out, except I've already torn all the hair out of my head, so you'll have to use your imagination to figure out where I'm tearing the rest of my hair from. However, we're not done talking about this game quite yet, as there still are some cool things that it has to offer. Mainly, now is the time I want to talk about SCP-106, or Larry's, Pocket Dimension, and how important it is for unlocking both Night 6 and this game's secret ending. The first step to unlocking the secret ending is finding the 3 burnt pages in Larry's Pocket Dimension. There are skeletons all around this dimension, and every time you enter, a piece of a burnt page will appear next to one of them, which, yes, means you will have to go into his Pocket Dimension multiple times to acquire them all. The platforming in this game does make me want to skin a puppy alive, but hey, it's a FNAF game, not a platformer, so I guess that means something. Oh, and you want to know the best part? The Pocket Dimensions are totally random, so you could get the Pocket Dimension to spawn the same page multiple times, which means in theory it could take hours for you to ever be able to collect all 3. And you can't do the secret ending until you get all 3 of them, even though the code on it doesn't change. So that's realistically probably the worst part of this entire game. Spoiler alert, FNAF fans aren't a super huge fan of RNG. Who would have thought? Once you get all 3 pages and escape, you will be able to put them together in your office to reveal the code PGF4B. Typing this code into the computer instead of the one on the sticky notes will unlock Night 6. Night 6 is where you can get the secret ending. Not only is Night 6 hard as fuck, but getting the secret ending only makes Night 6 even harder. Once in Night 6, you will want to once again type in the burnt note code PGF4B. After it boots, you'll want to type in the command run power manager. This will give you a special tab on your second monitor that you can use to control all of the power in the building. This is where the secret ending makes Night 6 very hard. Obviously, Night 6 by itself is already difficult, having several threats to keep track of and having to react very quickly to all of them. However, the additional tasks this secret ending requires only serves to add more confusion and stress to your plate. In this new Power Manager menu, you will be able to click through every room of every floor in the facility. It looks a lot more confusing than it really is. The only sections that matter are the rooms that contain the elevators. You'll have to go to each elevator room and turn the power to each of them on by manually typing in codes. This section heavily reminds me of some of the tasks you're required to do in Banshee, another FNAF game I've covered on this channel. You should definitely watch that video after this one if you haven't already, by the way. This is the main reason I think this secret ending is so stressful. There is already so much bullshit happening at the same time that to add in precision typing on top of that really makes for a super tense experience. And while no, I never did it myself, I applaud anyone who was actually able to pull this insane shit off. After turning on the power to each elevator floor, our character will actually speak.
It worked! I can finally get the hell out of here.
Which is where I learned that we play as a female throughout this game. Not that that really matters, just something I wasn't expecting. We get a final cutscene of our inmate leaving the building, avoiding all the characters she'd been going up against thus far, and escaping the facility, only to find out that she was right in the sights of an SCP worker's gun. We never get to see if the bullet hits her, but we can only hope it didn't and that she was finally able to escape. But don't click off the video yet, you little piece of shit! I see you checking how much longer there is trying to fuck up my retention. Stop it! You stop it! Naughty! Anyways, I've still got something else I want to talk about in this game that I think is really cool. So, it's becoming more and more common for FNAF games to integrate Game Jolt achievements. I think that's awesome. I think achievement hunting is super cool. But something I notice about a lot of these FNAF game achievements is that they're boring. Oh, beat night 1, beat night 5, beat night 6, beat all 20 mode. Stuff you would imagine people are already doing, which I feel makes them not feel like achievements a lot of the time. SCP The Endurance also has these achievements, except I've noticed that it also has a lot of super fun ones. So I'd like to dedicate this section to talking about those achievements. The first achievement I want to mention is called Seriously How. It can be achieved by dying on night 1. You may be wondering how that's even possible, considering there are no characters active and you have unlimited power. Well, there still is one way to kill yourself during night 1, and that's by turning off the ventilation and suffocating yourself. If you do that, ta-da! You've got yourself an achievement. It's a goofy one, yes, but I still think it's pretty cool. The next achievement I want to mention is called Ah, There You Are. This achievement can be obtained by allowing SCP-1048 to completely enter your office. Once he does, if you spam click his nose enough, you'll get this achievement. Yes, quite a few of these are pretty silly by the way, but that's why I like them. The next achievement is called Oh Whoa, What's This? Hey, shut up. I just told you they were silly. This one can be achieved by simply using the command commands or help in the terminal. You're a femboy, aren't you? Don't lie. I said oh whoa and I saw your little stupid ass fucking light up, freak. The next interesting achievement is called One Step Forward, Two Steps Back, and can be achieved by collecting one of the burnt notes in 106's pocket dimension and proceeding to fall out of the world and die. Interesting that they chose to call that an achievement, considering you didn't actually achieve anything at all. There are also 2 achievements that can be incredibly difficult to achieve. The first of which is called Catch Me If You Can. You get this achievement by surviving the night after aggroing SCP-096, which isn't necessarily too hard if you aggro him right at the end of the night, but you also have to hope that you can find him right at the end of the night. The other, much more difficult achievement is Staring Contest. This one is ass, I can't even lie to you. You have to let SCP-173 into your office for at least 1 entire hour of the night, so 1 minute real time. This is disgusting, because you literally can't look away from him. And not looking away from him for a minute will require a good deal of luck to not get butt banged. There's also a really silly achievement called L+ ratio, wherein you complete night 3 without ever looking at the cameras, which I'm not going to lie, just sounds like complete hell. And finally, the last achievement in the game, which I would actually say is worthy of getting a trophy, is called My Goals Are Beyond Your Understanding, which is achieved on night 6 if you turn off every single light in the power manager, then shut off literally everything in the office that you can, leaving you completely vulnerable in literally every way possible. Doing this isn't hard. Doing this on night 6 definitely is. But as far as I'm aware, that's all SCP The Endurance has to offer. Overall, I think this game is incredibly solid. It was in development by one person for over 8 years, and I think it turned out great. Yes, it's really hard. Yes, I think the burnt notes being RNG is bullshit. And yes, I think the game giving you little to no hints for anything in the game is pretty ass. Overall, I still think this experience was a good one. I think this is probably one of the most high-quality FNAF games I've seen in terms of how much dedication was poured into it, and I highly recommend you guys go and give it a try. In my Fredbear and Friends reboot video, I asked you guys what your least favorite mechanic in a FNAF game was, and my favorite answer was this one by Durgiz Nibble. They said having to reboot everything in FNAF 3 whenever you do anything, and I totally agree. I think that reboot panel is one of the most miserable things in any official FNAF game ever, and I would rather use steel wool as a toothbrush than ever have to deal with it again. The question of this video is, what is your favorite SCP and why? With the question of the video being asked, subscribe to the channel, I'd appreciate it a lot. I've been Dexter, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya!